Chapter 158. Lei Xingfeng and Mad Eagle worked together. Mad Eagle's shield was in front of them, while Lei Xingfeng's shield was above them. Actually, with their cultivation, they wouldn't care about these snowflakes at all. Even if they were real knives, they wouldn't be afraid. However, their robes wouldn't be able to take it. If they stayed here for too long, they would be torn apart by the snowflakes. In a place like this, even they wouldn't be able to take it if they didn't have a thick robe. Luckily, they had a hood that could block their mouths, so it was fine to talk. They just needed to speak loudly for others to hear. After walking for about 2 hours, Xi and Zhaoluan said, "There's a shelter up ahead. Let's rest for a bit before continuing. We're about to enter the Box Groove Glacier. It's more dangerous there, so stay alert." Very quickly, everyone came to a crevice in the ice cliff. There were ice walls on 3 sides, and only the top and the entrance were empty. Seeing the snowflakes leave white trails in the wind, everyone entered the crevice. Instantly, the piercing coldness lessened a lot. Xi and Zhaoluan said, "All right, take this opportunity to eat some dry rations and catch your breath. We'll continue." In a place like this, food was very important. As long as they had enough food in their stomachs and were also cultivators, they could withstand the cold. Consuming food was better than consuming their Luan Inli and Inli. Luan Inli and Inli were the foundation of battle strength. If they were wasted for no reason once they encountered danger, it would be really bad. Xi and Zhaoluan was very experienced in this kind of thing. As long as there was a chance, he would make everyone eat nonstop. Everyone had ready-made food in their hidden Luan space. As for Chweezy and Mad Axe, they were prepared by Xi and Zhaoluan. These 2 natives didn't have hidden Luan spaces, so they had to carry everything themselves. Of course, Xi and Zhaoluan hired them, so they didn't have to worry about food. Lei Xingfeng prepared a lot of cold food, especially all kinds of sauced and braised meat. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love also prepared a lot of food. As for the half-dead Jean Daya, he also took out some meat to eat. Feng took out a roast duck. Red light flashed in his hand, and the whole roast duck began to steam. Before he could even take 2 bites, the duck was as hard as steel. In a few breaths of time, the hot duck was frozen solid. So, with every bite, Feng hand flashed. Lei Xingfeng wasn't that extravagant. The meat he took out was all processed. It was about the size of a child's fist and could be directly stuffed into his mouth. Every time he ate, a small arc of electricity would flash in his hand, heating up the meat in an instant. After eating 10 pieces of meat and drinking a few mouthfuls of wine, Lei Xingfeng finally stopped. Actually, this was just to fill their stomachs. They didn't have time to stay for long. Xi and Zhaoluan said, "Okay, pack up. We're going to enter the Box Trench Glacier." The Bogu Glacier was 120 kilometers long and 30 kilometers wide. Luckily, Xi and Zhaoluan and the others were going to cross it and not follow it. With their speed, they definitely wouldn't be able to walk 120 kilometers in a day. In this harsh climate, even if they were true masters, it would be a miracle if they could walk 80 kilometers in a day. In fact, in the glacier, walking 50 kilometers in a day would be considered a miracle. This was also one of the reasons why they didn't dare to delay. They had to cross the glacier quickly. As soon as they entered the glacier, Xi and Zhaoluan gathered everyone into a small circle. He said, "Long story short, remember 2 things. First, walk as fast as you can, don't stop. Second, if you encounter any danger, no matter if it's a human or a beast, use all your strength. Don't try to kill the enemy, just force them back. Of course, it's better to kill them. Don't get entangled, and don't chase after them. Remember?" Lei Xingfeng's heart skipped a beat, but he didn't ask. He only replied, "Remember." Xi and Zhaoluan said, "Okay, Chui, see, I'll walk side by side with you. In narrow places, you just need to lead the way. I'll be in front, you behind. Shuizi said straightforwardly. Okay. When everyone was on their way, Lei Xingfeng asked, Uncle Ling, are there wild beasts here? Mad Eagle said, Yes, and there are a lot of them. Lei Xingfeng was speechless. He said, How is that possible? Even humans can't survive in this climate. How can there be wild beasts? Before he came, he had thought that this place was similar to Tiger Cliff Castle. However, when he walked into the ice field, he immediately dismissed this idea. It was too cold. He couldn't think of any wild beasts that could survive in this climate. Mad Eagle said, The wild beasts here, well, to be exact, they're not wild beasts. They're unique ice beasts. There are a lot of them, and they're very strong. Lei Xingfeng didn't understand. We came all the way here, but we didn't see any of these. Well, ice beasts. Mad Eagle laughed. That's normal. Do you think that ice beasts are like the wild beasts in the mountains? They're everywhere. An ice beast's territory is at least 10 kilometers. In this kind of heavy snow, any smell will be blown away. Even if the two sides are 100 meters apart, it's hard to meet. Lei Xingfeng was actually a good hunter. He said, In other words, unless it's face to face, it's hard to meet an ice beast. Mad Eagle said, That's right. And even if it's a battle, as long as one side deliberately leaves, the other side will have a hard time tracking it. Most importantly, it's not hunting season now. Even if there are ice beasts, they're all hiding. Lei Xingfeng looked up. There were steep icicles and ice cliffs all around. The wind blew the snow down, leaving white streaks in his vision. He couldn't see clearly from a distance. He was a little confused. I wonder how Hammerhead identifies the direction. Mad Eagle said, So in the wild, there must be a local to lead the way and protect them. Lei Xingfeng said, Oh, I see. I understand. So it's not hunting season. Lei Xingfeng pondered. Where would the ice beasts hide? After thinking for a long time, he still couldn't figure it out. He stopped thinking about it and tried his best to follow the team. Xin Zhaoluan rushed to the front. He held a shield in his hand. He saw Lei Xingfeng use a shield and thought it was good. He asked Lei Xingfeng for a steel shield. He didn't have such a low-level weapon. The cracking sounds kept sounding. Lei Xingfeng's scalp went numb. He couldn't help but ask, What the F***CK is that sound? Why do I feel so creeped out? Tiger Love said from behind him, That's the sound of ice ridges cracking. Lei Xingfeng looked up and couldn't help but smile bitterly. If this thing collapses, we'll have a hard time. Tiger Love laughed. It's okay. There are 2 9-ringed and 2 8-ringed people. No matter what kind of ice ridges or ice cliffs collapse, it won't be a problem. We just have to break them. As soon as he finished speaking, they heard continuous cracking sounds in front of them. Xin Zhaoluan's voice came from the front. Everyone be careful. The cracking sounds became more frequent. Xin Zhaoluan also became more careful. He was scouting the path in front. Even if the glacier cracked and fell, as long as he paid attention, it wouldn't hurt him. With his strength, it wasn't a big problem for him to block the shattered ice. Boom! A 3-meter-long, 1-meter-wide chunk of ice came crashing down from the sky. Xin Zhaoluan smashed it into pieces, and then another chunk of ice came crashing down. Everyone blocked in a flurry. Lei Xingfeng also waved his shield and smashed the ice blocks falling from above. Soon, everyone left the collapsing ice wall and turned to another path. When everyone turned to the new path, they immediately heaved a sigh of relief. There were no more ice falling from above their heads. Unless that thing collapsed like a mountain, it was very difficult to pose a threat to them. However, with the ice falling from above their heads, If they were not careful and did not defend themselves, it was not impossible for them to be injured. Boom! Another ice wall collapsed and instantly blocked the path forward. Fortunately, most people were cultivators. Even the local Aborigines weren't bad. The group didn't hesitate to step on the shattered ice blocks and quickly moved forward. Faint cries for help came from afar. Xian Zhaoluan shouted, "Faster! Faster!" Lei Xingfeng understood that they had to leave the cries for help as soon as possible. Who knew what those people had encountered? With their strength, although they weren't afraid of anything, it would be a big problem if they were entangled. Everyone understood this in their hearts. Therefore, when Xian Zhaoluan said to speed up, no one objected. They all sped up. Some of the crevices were directly flattened. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love protected Lei Xingfeng from the front and back. Although they definitely couldn't fly in the air here, they could directly leap over if they encountered a large ice crack without worrying about falling into it. The 7 of them shared a rope. Even if someone was lifted off the ground by the strong wind, they would be pulled down by the others. At first, the 7 of them walked in a line with some bumps. However, it didn't take long for the 7 of them to gradually work together. If someone were to see them from the air, the 7 of them would look like a multi-legged centipede. They moved smoothly on the ground and moved at an extremely fast speed. They were very harmonious and coordinated. Dense rumbling sounds came from afar. Everyone felt the tremors under their feet. Xian Zhaoluan couldn't help but curse. He led the group to change their direction. Cracking sounds kept coming from all around them, making their scalps tingle. This was an instinctive fear. Even if the ice wall's collapse wasn't a threat to them, the fear that came from the bottom of their hearts still emerged involuntarily. As they left quickly, the ice walls around them gradually calmed down. Only the whistling of the wind in the sky and the crackling of the snow still lingered in their ears. After walking for about 10 miles, Xian Zhaoluan raised his hand and signaled for everyone to stop. He said, "There's a large ice crack here. Let's take a break." The 7 of them squeezed into the ice crack. Instantly, their ears became a little quieter. The whistling sounds weren't as piercing as before. Being able to avoid the bone-piercing cold made everyone feel a little better. Xian Zhaoluan said, "Let's eat something before we continue. It's too bad. We can't drink hot soup. It's too damn cold." Even Xian Zhaoluan said it was cold. One could imagine how low the temperature here was. Lei Xingfeng said, "How far are we from here?" Hammer said, "We took a slight detour. We'll be able to cross very soon." Lei Xingfeng said, "Damn, this is the first time I've seen such cold weather." Even when Tiger Cliff Castle was at its coldest, it wasn't as cold as this. Not to mention normal people, even a sage with one true ring body wouldn't be able to last long here. Chapter 159. This time, they only rested for 15 minutes, but there was no other choice. This place was too dangerous, and they had to pass through it. There wasn't much time to waste. 15 minutes was enough for everyone to eat a bit of food. Xian Feng had already eaten 10 fist-sized pieces of braised meat. Of course, this bit of meat was only enough to fill his stomach. It was far from being full. Actually, Lei Xingfeng knew another way to replenish his energy. That was to eat sweets or just eat sweets. However, sweets were very rare in this world. It wasn't that they couldn't afford it, but that they couldn't find it. Of course, there were sweets, mostly made from honey. There were many places in this world that produced honey, and there were many varieties. After coming out of the ice crevice, everyone resumed their journey. Everyone felt much better. Once they lacked food, they wouldn't be able to withstand the cold in this climate. They had to use their Luan Inli to avoid freezing. This was also the reason why they had to eat frequently. It was unknown how Cue Zi found the right path. Along the way, Lei Xingfeng had already lost his way. If it wasn't for someone leading the way, he wouldn't have been able to find the right path. If you got lost here, even if you were a ninth ring sage, you would still be dead. This was also the reason why the natives could still live so comfortably. Otherwise, no matter how strong their bodies were and how powerful their combat strength was, they would still be wiped out by the outsiders. In the natives' territory, these natives were a living map. The outsiders could not leave them at all. After another round of running, even though the outside world was so cold, everyone was sweating slightly. Finally, Chui Zi shouted happily, "Ha, we're almost out. I almost got lost." Hearing this, everyone's hair stood on end. If this guy got lost, everyone would be finished. Everyone entered a very large ice crevice. Following this ice crevice, they quickly saw an ice wall. The most puzzling thing was that there was only an ice wall in front of them. There was no path. Xian Zhaoluan said, "Should we go from above or from below?" Chui Zi said, "We can't go from above. The snow is too heavy. It's too hard to go up. We'll go from below." Xian Zhaoluan said, "Did you find it?" Hammerhead and Wild Axe discussed for a bit before leading everyone down the ice wall. After a short while, Hammerhead found a smooth ice wall. He reached out and knocked on the ice wall, then nodded and said, "It's here." Kuang Fu said, "Let me do it." Chui Zi nodded and retreated, saying, "Let's back off a little." Kuang Fu untied the ropes and walked forward with his huge axe. After examining it for a moment, he suddenly swung his axe. In an instant, the huge axe emitted a faint golden brilliance. Kuang Fu roared and chopped the ice wall with his axe. Chopping down with an axe, Wild Axe quickly retreated. Boom! The ice wall suddenly exploded, and a hole appeared. Kuang Fu said, "All right, it's open. Let's go in quickly." Lei Xingfeng found that this ice wall was very strange. The ice wall that was split open by the giant axe was quickly closing. In a few minutes, the hole would disappear. With Hammerhead in front, he led everyone into the hole. This was a slanted hole. The entrance was small, but the inside was big. Because it was covered in ice, some light refracted in, so the ice cave was not dark. Lei Xingfeng was surprised to find that this ice cave seemed to be man-made. The ice on the ground was in the shape of stairs. It was a very regular ice staircase. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Did you guys dig this?" Hammerhead said, "Not completely." Xian Zhaoluan said, "Half natural, half repaired. This kind of cave can only be mastered by the local people. Outsiders can't find it. If you don't believe me, look at the hole. It should be closed." Lei Xingfeng looked back. Sure enough, the hole was closed. The temperature in the ice cave was very comfortable. After everyone entered, they all breathed a sigh of relief. In the cold climate, even with fur covering the mouth and nose, the cold air still strongly irritated the nasal cavity. They needed to breathe in and out slowly. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to adapt to the cold. Lei Xingfeng grabbed his hat, took a deep breath, and said, "Sigh, I can finally breathe comfortably. Should we rest here?" Xian Zhaoluan laughed. "We originally planned to stay here for a while, at least for a night. Hee, this is the first real resting place after crossing the glacier. We will know when we move forward." This underground ice tunnel was very long. The group walked for about 20 minutes before they arrived at a spacious ice hall. Icicles hung from the ceiling, but the hall was very large. It was more than 300 square meters. The group could see in the corner there was a fire pit made of stone. In the fire pit, there were remnants of charcoal ashes. There were also a few pieces of discarded animal skins. Mad Eagle laughed. "Okay, we can start the fire." I didn't expect there to be a fire pit here. Hee hee, I wonder who left it behind. Chuizi laughed. This was left behind by my people, this? His eyes stared at Lei Xingfeng again. Lei Xingfeng said, Don't look, there will be food. Chuizi and Mad Axe smiled with satisfaction. After being cold for half a day, to be able to eat a hot meal and drink a big bowl of hot soup was definitely a super enjoyment. This time, Lei Xingfeng didn't use charcoal. Instead, he used oil wood for the fire. Oil wood was very resistant to burning. 3 large pieces of oil wood could boil a big pot of water. This was a very good fuel. With some charcoal, it was enough for heating and cooking. Cooking and cooking had become Lei Xingfeng's specialty. It was simple, convenient, practical, easy to cook, and especially delicious. Everyone liked it. The temperature in the ice hall was much warmer than outside. When the oil wood in the fire pit began to burn, everyone took off their fur coats. Lei Xingfeng asked while cooking, Where are we going tomorrow? Xian Zhaoluan said, We still have to go through a snow mountain, and then we will be there. Hee hee, if there are no accidents, it will only take 2 days. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, Is it the mining that we talked about last time? Xian Zhaoluan smiled bitterly and said, I had no choice. I originally wanted to wait, but I felt that something was wrong. I always felt a little uneasy. You have to know that this material is very rare. It can only be produced in this area. If we miss this opportunity, it will be difficult to find it next time. Lei Xingfeng said, You can't buy it? Xian Zhaoluan said, It would be great if you could buy it. Then you wouldn't have to work so hard to dig it up. This thing is priceless to those who are useful. Those who are useless won't care at all. Although Lei Xingfeng also tried his best to learn, he was still too young compared to these old guys who had studied for decades or even hundreds of years. There were a lot of things that he didn't know. It was normal that he didn't know the importance of this thing. What the hell is this thing? Really? Well, I don't care. If I can collect it, I will also collect some. Lei Xingfeng muttered to himself. He was very lucky to be able to accompany high-level perfected masters to collect materials at such a young age. If he didn't have a master, he probably wouldn't be able to come here even if he reached 9th ring sage. Xian Zhaoluan smiled and said, Sure, as long as you go, you can collect a part of it yourself. Well, you have to give me a part of it. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, I understand. Don't worry, senior brother. He was very clear about this. Even if he was the senior brother, he didn't have the obligation to do something for nothing. Chuizi and Fudu were both beside the pot. If it wasn't for Mad Eagle grabbing their necks, these 2 guys would have stuck their heads into the pot. The most unbearable thing was that these 2 guys kept drooling. This was the reason why Mad Eagle wanted to drag them back. Jean Dia laughed. He hadn't said much until now. At this time, he said, Caught them. They are all foodies. They can't eat their fill their whole lives. Lei Xingfeng took out a pot lid and covered it. Instantly, the fragrance was reduced. Chuizi swallowed his saliva as he watched the pot lid close. He couldn't help but say, Let's open it and boil it. It's warmer. Suddenly, everyone looked at him. Chuizi said angrily, Okay, I know. Don't look at me. I'm hungry. Lei Xingfeng said gently, Don't worry. It'll be ready in a while. Ha ha. In the wild, especially in cold weather, eating was the most important thing. If you didn't want to die, you had to eat as much as possible. This was the native's instinct. Nothing could replace it. This was also why Chuizi and Fudu were so excited when they saw the food being cooked. The 2 of them couldn't wait to reach out and grab the food, even if it wasn't completely cooked. It's ready. Chuizi cheered. He held a copper basin in his hand and looked at Lei Xingfeng eagerly. He was such a big and strong man, but he looked like a dog wagging its tail. His eyes were shining. Lei Xingfeng felt a chill. He said, "Hold your basin, and don't move." He held a big copper ladle in his hand and filled Chweezy's copper basin with a few spoonfuls of boiling hot chowder. He said, "Go and eat." After everyone had a basin of chowder, the pot was empty. Lei Xingfeng continued to put in various ingredients and continued to cook another pot. The 7 of them had to eat at least 2 pots of chowder. Otherwise, it wouldn't be enough. Everyone ate the hard flatbread. In this kind of weather, eating boiling hot chowder was definitely a super enjoyment. Soon, their stiff bodies warmed up and small beads of sweat appeared on their foreheads. Lei Xingfeng also ate like crazy. He knew very well that he had to replenish his food. Moreover, people who cultivated had a large appetite. According to his estimation, a meal was at least 10 times more than what he ate in his previous life. Sometimes it might even be more. After they finished eating, the sky was already dark. The light that shone into the ice hall also dimmed. Relying on the fire in the fire pit, they could still see each other clearly. Lei Xingfeng put away the big pot and added a few pieces of oil wood. When the flames rose, he set up a pot of water and sat down to cultivate. Everyone also sat down to cultivate. However, Chweezy and Kwang Fu went to the entrance to guard. The 2 of them were in charge of guarding. Lei Xingfeng only cultivated for a while and was surprised to find that something was wrong. The effect of cultivating here was even better than cultivating in Hanya Castle. It was almost close to the effect of cultivating near the thunderstorm area. This made him bewildered. After trying a few times, the result was the same. He stopped cultivating and pondered. Chapter 160. Mad Eagle also stopped cultivating. He opened his eyes and saw Lei Xingfeng in a daze. He couldn't help but ask softly, "What's wrong?" Lei Xingfeng hesitated and asked, "Cultivating here, do you feel any difference?" Mad Eagle sighed and said, "Yes, there is a difference." Xian Feng asked, "Is it because the effects of training are better?" Mad Eagle shook his head and said, "It's the opposite. The effect is much worse than in Hanya Castle." Lei Xingfeng was shocked and said, "That's strange. I feel that the effect is better." Tiger Love also opened his eyes and shook his head. "No, the effect is not good." Jean Dia sneered and said, "It's normal. The effect will be better if we go out. We are in the middle of the ice. How can the effect be better?" It was rare for him to say something like that. Xian Zhaoluan said, "Cultivating here is just to recover a little. What else can we expect in the ice cave?" Lei Xingfeng didn't understand, but this was a good opportunity. He obviously wouldn't let it go. He closed his eyes and continued to cultivate. The others didn't cultivate and chose to sleep. The sky was bright and the night was quiet. Lei Xingfeng cultivated until midnight. He also took out a thick beast skin and a special beast skin sleeping bag and slept for a few hours. Everyone simply drank some hot water and ate some dry food. Then they left this rare ice cave. Hammerhead smashed a big hole with his hammer and said, "We are out." This was an ice wall. He smashed it open with his hammer, and the sound of the wind whistling could be heard. Everyone followed Hammerhead out. In the ice cave, everyone was tied up with ropes. The snow outside was still heavy, and the temperature was even lower than yesterday. Lei Xingfeng stepped out of the ice cave. He felt the bone-chilling wind penetrating his leather robe. Even though he was wearing a bull skin armor, he could still feel the cold. He said, "It's so cold." The temperature today was extremely low. Lei Xingfeng couldn't measure how low the temperature was, but he realized that he didn't dare to open his eyes. He could only squint. Even so, when the cold wind blew, his eyes hurt. He had no choice but to cover his face with Luan Yin Li. Everyone lowered their heads and tried their best to move forward. This time, Lei Xingfeng was still holding a steel shield to block the incoming snow. The journey was very tiring, and they rested a few times. They only found a place to rest when the sky turned dark. This time, the resting place was far from the ice hall. Lei Xingfeng felt like he was going to freeze into a popsicle. He had to use his defensive barrier from time to time to block the cold. They endured until the next day. According to Xian Zhaoluan, there was only half a day left before they reached their destination. They walked until the afternoon. Xian Zhaoluan said, "Okay, we are almost there." "Damn. Every time we come out, it is so torturous. Hold on a little longer." There were large chunks of ice on the road. Lei Xingfeng stumbled all the way. He was different from the others. Chuizi and Kuang Fu were natives and had long been used to this kind of terrain. The others were all true ring sages and could fly. Even if they couldn't fly high in the air, their feet wouldn't fall. Instead, it was as if they were stepping on invisible ground. Lei Xingfeng didn't have this ability. Every time he stepped on air, he would immediately fall down. Therefore, he was dragging down the whole team. Mad Eagle wanted to carry him, but he didn't agree this time. It was too difficult to walk here. Even if he was an 8 true ring sages, it was still not easy. Therefore, Lei Xingfeng would rather suffer alone. Soon, the 7 of them arrived at a cliff. Xian Zhaoluan raised his hand and signaled for everyone to slow down. He began to explore the cliff. Lei Xingfeng said, "Seems like we are almost there." Mad Eagle nodded. "Should be. Not long after," Xian Zhaoluan said, "I found it. There was a crack in the cliff. The entire cliff was covered in layers of ice. Even the crack in the cliff was covered in ice. If you didn't look carefully, you wouldn't be able to find the crack at all." Xian Zhaoluan said, "Break it open." Chuizi and Kuang Fu went forward together. They swung their hammers and axes and began to smash the ice hanging from the crack. Soon, the 2 of them smashed a path. Lei Xingfeng laughed. Sigh. Finally found a place to shelter from the wind. "I'm really afraid of the wind here." He wanted to drill into the ground. The cold wind here was unbearable. It stung his whole body. He couldn't remember how many times he used electric arcs to warm himself up. Jean Daya suddenly said from behind, "I'm also afraid of the wind here." Xian Zhaoluan said, "Come in quickly. The wind here, has a nickname. It's called the piercing wind, the bone-piercing wind, or the killing wind." The crack in the cliff was hollow. It was just that there was no place to step because the crack below was getting narrower and narrower. If one wasn't careful, they would get stuck. They had to be able to fly, or use both hands to support themselves. Of course, they didn't have to go through that trouble. Mad Eagle pulled Lei Xingfeng and hovered in the air. Chuizi and Kuang Fu were also carried by Xian Zhaoluan and Jean Daya. They didn't need to step on the ground to move forward. After a while, everyone entered the belly of the mountain. They could already walk now. A ball of flame floated in front of everyone, illuminating the surroundings. Lei Xingfeng estimated that they had walked for at least 10 minutes. From time to time, there was a dripping sound. It was the sound of water dripping. The temperature was gradually rising. Xian Zhaoluan laughed. "We're finally here." After turning a corner, a gust of hot air hit their faces. There was a faint red light, and there was a low roar in their ears. Lei Xingfeng said, I have a feeling of uneasiness. Ugh, it's so hot." The red light shone brightly. Lei Xingfeng said in surprise, "Magma flow?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "Yes, there's an underground magma flow here. This magma flow flows in all directions. Don't worry, this magma flow is very safe." As long as you pay attention, nothing will happen. Yes, there are all kinds of rare materials here. It depends on your luck. Many of them can't be used by true masters, or they would be wasted if used by true masters. Jean Dia said, Old Xian, you're a high-level true master. You have good taste. Actually, there are a lot of materials here that Afong and the others need. It's just that. Hee. Afong doesn't need to come here to exchange or buy these materials. Xian Jialuan nodded. He took out a piece of beast skin and handed it to Lei Xingfeng. Pass this to everyone. These are all kinds of materials produced in this area. If you can find one, it's good. But this material is something that needs everyone's attention. It's also something that I need. Lei Xingfeng didn't know much about the importance of materials because he rarely needed them. Of course, out of instinct, he collected any materials he could find. Because of the hidden Luan space, there was a lot of space to store things. He didn't need to spend time looking for places to store things. Because of this, when he needed a lot of materials, he didn't panic. Baisi, Lei Xingfeng said, What's this? In his knowledge, there was no such thing. Xian Jialuan said, It's this. It's a type of material that can only be found here. It's produced on this cliff. You guys have to help me find it slowly. Later, when I find it, you guys will understand. Everyone nodded in agreement. The magma flowed in the deep trench. Above, it was a hard shell formed by the magma. After a part of it collapsed, it revealed the magma flowing slowly below. In other words, everyone was walking on the hard magma shell. If they weren't careful, they might break the shell and fall into the magma. Therefore, everyone was actually floating in the air. Of course, Lei Xingfeng, Chuizi, and Kuang Fu were all pulled by people. Soon, Xian Jialuan found a solid place for Lei Xingfeng and the others to stand. Basically, the places that were further away from the magma were mostly solid ground. Xian Jialuan said, Follow this path. It's not a big problem. There was a wide side along the cave wall. It was made of rocks and not magma. Xian Jialuan walked forward for a short distance and stopped. He said, Found it. Everyone, come and take a look. Lei Xingfeng quickly walked forward. He came to Xian Jialuan's side and said, Where is it? Xian Jialuan waited for everyone to gather around. He pointed at the stone wall and said, This is, on the black rock there was a hint of green. With just a glance, Lei Xingfeng felt very comfortable. He said, Interesting. It's a very comfortable feeling. Is this Baisi? Xian Jialuan said, No, this is an ore. Only after refining it will there be Baisi. Everyone, remember this feeling and look for it. When you find it, well, I will dig it out for everyone to see. Consider it a demonstration. He took out a small hammer and knocked it lightly. After a while, the rocks on the rock wall rolled down. An irregular rock fell into Xian Jialuan's hand. He handed it to Lei Xingfeng and said, This is an ore. It's much harder than the rocks on the side. So, you just need to knock it a few times to break the surrounding rocks. Then, you can dig it out. This was a dark green, or the size of a fist. It was very heavy in the hand. Lei Xingfeng felt that it was definitely heavier than gold. Such a small piece of, or weighed about 5 kilograms. He said, It's so heavy. Xian Jialuan said, It's been purified. It's heavier. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, Okay, then I'll go look for it. Xian Jialuan said, If you can find 50 to 150 kilograms, that's enough. As for the rest, you can keep it. This stuff is very rare. I believe you will need it. Lei Xingfeng understood that this was also an opportunity for him. He said, Okay, no problem. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love both understood that they would not have a chance to use this material. Both of them said that they would help Lei Xingfeng dig it out. As for Chweezy and Mad Axe, they were brought by Exai Jiaoluan. So, no matter how much they dug out, it would all be for Exai Jiaoluan. The two of them had already reached an agreement with Exai Jiaoluan. Jean Dia also helped Exai Jiaoluan dig, but he was the same as Lei Xingfeng. Once he dug out enough Bayasi, he could keep the rest for himself. It was Lei Xingfeng's first time digging for ore in the underground. When he found the Bayasi ore, he realized that he did not have the right tools. He took out a steel spear and began to knock on the rock wall. At this time, he realized that he was very strong. It did not take him much effort to break the rock wall. Soon, he dug out the first piece of Bayasi ore. Chapter 161. It was only the size of a walnut, but it glowed green. Lei Xingfeng estimated that this small piece of ore weighed at least 2 to 3 caddies. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love also spread out to look for ores. The two of them could find more places than Lei Xingfeng, such as the top of the cave. Lei Xingfeng definitely could not go up, so he could only follow the sides of the cave and explore along the walls. There were constant knocking sounds coming from the cave, and everyone was silently searching. Because the cave was extremely hot, Lei Xingfeng only wore a pair of underpants and a small singlet and kept the rest of his clothes in his hidden Luan space. Lei Xingfeng looked down and suddenly found a string of green stones on the ground. He squatted down and could not help but be surprised and happy. He could conclude that there were at least a dozen pieces of Bia silk or here. After knocking for a while, Lei Xingfeng obtained 17 pieces of Bia silk Oregon. The largest piece was the size of an apple and weighed around 20 caddies. The smallest piece was the size of a thumb. They obtained at least 100 caddies in one go. Lei Xingfeng was overjoyed. Mad Eagle also dug up a few pieces. Only Tiger Love was frowning, as the places he found were all wrong. Lei Xingfeng became more and more excited as he dug. He realized that he seemed to have the potential to be a miner. Others could not find it even after searching for a long time, but he could find it easily with his intuition. In just a moment, he found the location of another ore. Just as Tiger Love dug up the first piece of ore, Lei Xingfeng found another 7 or 8 pieces. Bia silk ore was easy to find, but difficult to find. So far, Lei Xingfeng was the one with the biggest harvest. The others, including Exai and Jiaoluan, only dug up 5 or 6 pieces. Chweezy and Mad Axe, who had the least, did not find a single piece of Bia silk Oregon. Slowly, Lei Xingfeng walked far away. This was a very deep cave. Along the way, Lei Xingfeng found things from time to time. He thought to himself, "Strange, it's not hard to find. I've already completed the task given by Senior." In just a few hours, he dug up a few hundred caddies of ore without any difficulty. At this time, Lei Xingfeng found another type of ore, red gold. Red gold was not gold, but a special kind of metal. It had some characteristics of gold, but it was much more precious than gold, especially when used to make weapons. Red gold was different from Bia silk. Red gold was produced in many places, but it was rare. Red gold could not be purified. Its natural purity was its purity. It looked like a crystal, but it could be tempered like a metal. Red gold's natural volume was very small. It existed in the form of gravel in the rocks. That was why Exai Foam was very happy after discovering the red gold. He smashed the rock into pieces and picked up a piece to examine. He could see the red gold on the outer layer of the rock, densely packed on the surface of the rock. Red gold did not need to be purified. As long as the ore was placed in a steel jar and hammered with a steel rod, the red gold would stick together. As long as the stone powder floated away, the red gold would be left. The red gold that Lei Xingfeng found was a 3-meter-long or belt. He collected the rocks bit by bit and directly put them into his hidden Luan space. It took him more than an hour to collect all the ore. There was a large crack in the rock wall, enough for 2 people to lie down. After working for an entire day, they ate some dry food when they were hungry and drank some cold water when they were thirsty. Only when Chuizi and Futu kept complaining that they were hungry did Exai and Xiaoluan gather everyone together. After finding a flat area, Exai and Xiaoluan smiled and asked, "How's the harvest?" He was very satisfied. In just one day, they had dug up more than 10 pieces of Bia silk. There were also 2 other types of ores that were found by chance. Jean Dia said, "I dug up 8 pieces. It's about 70 pounds. Not bad." Chuizi said embarrassedly, I dug up 3 pieces. They're not big. He laughed awkwardly. Fuda was even more embarrassed. He said, that I dug up 1 piece. Exai and Xiaolin was not dissatisfied. He said, "That's not bad." A foam. How much did you dig up? Lei Xingfeng was also embarrassed. It was not that he was embarrassed to dig up less, but that he seemed to have dug up more than the others. If he said this, would he be beaten up? He said shyly, "The results are not bad completing the mission. No problem." As for Mad Eagle and Tiger Love, they did not need to report. The 2 of them were Lei Xingfeng's bodyguards. All the harvest belonged to Lei Xingfeng and had nothing to do with Exai and Xiaoluan. Exai and Xiaoluan sighed in relief. He said, "We can't stay here for too long, so let's dig up as much as we can." Lei Xingfeng said, "We brought enough food. It shouldn't be a problem to stay here for a while." Exai and Xiaoluan said, "Yes, I know. When we go back, we have to listen to Chuizi and Fuda's opinions." Chuizi said, "It's okay. It's okay to stay for a while. As long as it's not more than 30 days, it's okay. But it's best to leave after 20 days. The weather is turning cold." Lei Xingfeng could not help but shout, "What do you mean by the weather is turning cold? It's already very cold." "Okay." Fuda said, "It means that you can't take it anymore. At that time, you will freeze to death." Lei Xingfeng said, "Can you guys be fine?" Chuizi smiled. "We can leave after 40 days or even 45 days. But you can't. So 20 days is just right." Lei Xingfeng immediately understood that he was the worst. This was the so-called wooden bucket theory. The shortest board determined how much water the bucket could hold. He nodded helplessly. "Okay, I'm a burden to everyone." Exai and Xiaoluan smiled. 20 days is enough. Actually, I can collect enough bayasi in about 10 days. You don't have to apologize. After a simple meal, Exai and Xiaoluan let everyone rest. However, Lei Xingfeng still went out to look for ores. In just half a day, he had already fallen in love with mining. He might not have the chance to do so in the future. Following the flow of magma, Exai and Foam didn't know where this underground magma flowed to or how deep it was. Luckily, there weren't any forks, and even if there were, it wouldn't be deep. After walking for a few dozen meters, he had to return to the forks and continue walking. Soon, Lei Xingfeng found that he could not walk anymore. The path at the side of the cave suddenly disappeared, and there was another path a dozen meters away. This section was empty, and he could clearly see the hot lava below. Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly. He could not fly. If he forced himself to jump, it was not that he could not, but he was afraid of accidents. He did not know if his protective shield could withstand the lava. With a sigh, he could only turn back. After a few steps, he saw Mad Eagle coming over. He smiled. "What's wrong?" Lei Xingfeng spread his hands. "I can't go over." "Oh, Uncle Ing, carry me over." Mad Eagle took a few steps forward to check. He could not help but smile. Okay, I didn't expect the path to be cut off. Tiger Love said, I'll carry you. I'm really not good at mining. Mad Eagle nodded. Okay, you do it. I'll go to the top. Hee hee, I found it easier to find up there. Tiger Love squatted down and carried Lei Xingfeng. He said, I'll stay by your side. If you find any ores, I'll dig them out. Lei Xingfeng smiled. Actually, mining is very fulfilling. Tiger Love flew over with Lei Xingfeng. There was an empty gap. A hot breath made Lei Xingfeng have to lower his defenses. Fortunately, Tiger Love was very fast. In a few seconds, they had passed through. Lei Xingfeng found a belt about 7 meters long. It was another red gold belt. Lei Xingfeng smiled. We're so lucky. It's red gold. Uncle Tiger, you dig. I'll go ahead and take a look. Tiger Love looked carefully for a long time, but could not find anything. He was puzzled. Red gold or belt? Okay, I'll dig and see. When Tiger Love knocked on the rock wall, he immediately understood that it was indeed red gold. He could not help but be impressed. He began to dig vigorously. Even he could use red gold. It had a wide range of uses and was a rare material. Lei Xingfeng continued to move forward. Soon, he found another material. It was blood sand. It was very similar to red gold, but it was not red gold. Lei Xingfeng dug it out. For more than 10 days, the 7 of them were busy. No one was lazy. The most serious person was Lei Xingfeng. Even Xian Zhaoluan could not compare to him. He had the most bountiful harvest. In addition to the 150 kilograms of Bia silk given to Xian Zhaoluan, he had obtained nearly 700 kilograms for himself. In other words, he had dug up almost 500 kilograms of Bia silk Oregon. This did not include the ores dug up by Mad Eagle and Tiger Love. As for Xian Zhaoluan, his harvest was also not bad. With everyone's help, he had collected enough Bia silk Oregon. Therefore, he had been grinning for the past few days. Lei Xingfeng could not help but crack a few jokes. Xian Zhaoluan said, There are still a few days left. Everyone, hurry up. I've already collected enough. The rest is just a bonus. Ha ha. He could not help but laugh a few times. He was really happy. Lei Xingfeng said, Yes, I also plan to dig for a few more days. That's about it. I found quite a lot of good stuff this time. Hee hee, there's one thing that I don't think you guys have gotten. Jean Dia asked, What is it? I've already collected 6 types of materials. This place is really a treasure trove. It's a pity I might not be able to come here again in the future. Xian Zhaoluan said, There are all kinds of materials here. Although there aren't many of them, there are many varieties, and the quality is good. Lei Xingfeng flipped his wrist, and a cone-shaped crystal appeared in his palm. It was dark purple in color. He said, Do you recognize this thing? Xian Zhaoluan took a glance and grabbed it. He said in surprise, Purple crystal. It's a supreme-grade purple crystal. Where did you find it? His voice changed. Jean Dia also looked extremely surprised. At the same time, his face was filled with extreme jealousy. He said, Purple crystal, you have such luck? Damn, why didn't I encounter it? This is too much of a blow. Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, Do you want to know? Xian Zhaoluan said, Nonsense. Of course I want to know. Tell me, where did you find it? Jean Dia also looked curious. Purple crystals were much more precious than Bia silk. They were very rare. Even experts above monarchs would rarely be able to get their hands on them. Not to mention the use of purple crystals. If he went back this time and gave this purple crystal to the patriarch, he could at least exchange it for many yin rings. This was something used by monarchs. Chapter 162. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "Everyone, follow me." Everyone followed Lei Xingfeng and walked along the edge of the cave wall. Soon, they arrived at the place where he couldn't cross last time. Mad Eagle said, "Do you want me to carry you over?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, "There's no need to go over. Hee, this is the place where I found the purple crystal." Jean Dia looked around and couldn't figure out what was going on. He said, "Don't joke around. There's no purple crystal here." Xian Feng used his finger to point downwards. Jean Dia was puzzled and said, You're saying that the purple crystal was found in the lava?" Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "That's right. It was by chance." Xian Zhaoluan said, "How did you get it?" After thinking for a while, he said, "You can't possibly go down there." Lei Xingfeng said, "Senior, I haven't lived long enough. If I go down there, I'll be dead for sure." Tiger Love said, "He fished it up." He had been following Lei Xingfeng all this time. Of course, he knew how this guy got the purple crystal. It was definitely by chance. This guy was tired of mining and suddenly had an idea. He used a long steel spear to dig into the flowing lava. He picked up a large piece of lava and threw it on the ground. In the end, he found a purple crystal. Xian Zhaoluan said, "Try fishing it up again." Lei Xingfeng said, "All right, I'll try. It depends on luck. It's very likely that there's nothing there." As he said that, he took out a long spear. Xian Zhaoluan noticed that the tip of the spear had completely melted. Only half of the spear head was left. Lei Xingfeng poked his spear into the lava and stirred it. In just a moment, the tip of the spear had turned red. Only then did he suddenly stir up a ball of lava and smash it onto the ground. A steel drill appeared in Xian Zhaoluan's hand. That was what he used to dig and pry open rocks. He used the steel drill to poke at the lava a few times. The lava was still glowing red and was still soft. He squatted down, and a bowl of water appeared in his hand. He poured the water directly onto the lava. With a sizzling sound, white mist evaporated. Very soon, a few pieces of lava that had already turned black were revealed. He used the steel drill to knock on them a few times and examine them carefully. After a while, he found the purple crystal. Jean Dia glanced at it and said, "Too small." There were a total of 2 purple crystals, which were about the size of a grain of sand. Lei Xingfeng's purple crystal was at least the size of a thumb. The two could not be compared, but this already proved that Lei Xingfeng was not talking nonsense. Xian Zhaoluan let out a long breath and said, "Sure enough, there are some. I've decided. I don't care about other mines, but I definitely won't let go of the purple crystal. This thing can be exchanged for a lot of things. Even if it's not exchanged, it's still very precious." Even a sesame-sized purple crystal was very precious. Xian Zhaoluan did not hesitate to put it away. Lei Xingfeng could not help but laugh. He said, "Senior, let me give you a hint. When you stir, pay attention to the color of the lava." Xian Zhaoluan said, "What color?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Look carefully at the lava. It's all golden with a hint of red. If there's a purple glow, then there's a purple crystal." Hearing Lei Xingfeng's words, the others stared at the lava. After a while, Xian Zhaoluan said, "I don't see any purple glow. It's all the same." Jean Dia also said, "I can't see it either." The others shook their heads. No one could see any purple glow. Chuizi rubbed his eyes hard and said, "It's all the same. How can there be any purple glow?" Lei Xingfeng was suddenly speechless. He said, "It's so obvious. You can't see it." He was puzzled. In this short period of time, he had seen at least a few purple glows appear. They were just flickering. If one did not pay attention, it would be easy to miss them. Xian Zhaoluan said, "Forget it. I'll try fishing and see how lucky I am." Everyone immediately slipped away. They either used steel rods or steel spears in their hands to stir the lava. Lei Xingfeng asked Mad Eagle to carry him to the front. He did not want a group of people to fish for purple crystals. At first, he only knew that purple crystals were precious. However, after seeing Xian Zhaoluan and Jean Daya's expressions, he understood that this thing could no longer be explained by how precious it was. He definitely could not miss it. Previously, he had only obtained 2 purple crystals. This thing was extremely difficult to obtain. Suddenly, Lei Xingfeng saw a ball of purple glow. He immediately stabbed the steel spear in his hand into the lava. He was suddenly excited. Lei Xingfeng already had some experience. He knew that relying on the lava to stick the purple crystals was not very effective. The best way was to directly pull the lava up from below. Up. Xian Feng used his strength to flick a ball of magma out. Tiger Love was standing beside Lei Xingfeng. When the lava was pulled up, he hurriedly took a few steps back and said, "Be careful." Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, "I know, hee. Don't worry. There's something in this lava." Tiger Love asked curiously, "How do you know?" Lei Xingfeng smiled and took out a basin of water. He poured it on the lava. With a puff, water vapor rose. Tiger Love could already clearly see a purple glow. He said, "Hey, there's really something." After waiting for the magma to cool down slightly, Xian Feng smashed it into pieces. This time, the harvest was huge. A purple crystal the size of an apricot appeared. Lei Xingfeng said, "Not bad. This is the biggest purple crystal I've found. Let's continue." Although he had found purple crystals before, he had only thought of them as materials like Bia silk. Therefore, he had stopped after finding a few pieces. Now that he knew that even monarchs had a need for them, he planned to get more. Tiger Love was still puzzled. He had already picked at least 7 or 8 balls of lava, but he could not find any purple crystals. He was confident that his eyesight was not inferior to Lei Xingfeng's. However, when he saw that Lei Xingfeng had picked up at least 2 of the 3 balls of lava with purple crystals in them, he could not help but be convinced. Lei Xingfeng stared at the lava flow. In fact, he could see a lot of purple light, but it was too far away from him. Moreover, he could not fly. He could not pick up the purple light that floated over to the shore. Lei Xingfeng's heart ached as he watched the purple crystals float away along the lava flow. This was a treasure that could be traded with monarchs. It was a pity that it disappeared in front of his eyes. He looked around and then saw Tiger Love holding a steel spear in his hand and stirring the lava. He immediately thought of an idea. He said, "Uncle Tiger, I'll command. You pick up the lava." Tiger Love said, "Okay." He also felt impatient. If it were anyone else, they would be impatient. If they could not get anything, they would definitely be unhappy. Lei Xingfeng said, "You fly above the lava. Be careful. I'll throw stones. As long as it's the place where the stones fall, you pick up the lava. You have to be fast. You have to pick it up from the bottom. Yes, you'll know after a test." Tiger Love smiled and nodded. This was a good idea. As long as he followed orders, it would be fine. As for whether there were purple crystals or not, it had nothing to do with him. Lei Xingfeng had already aimed at a piece of lava in the distance. It was near the opposite shore. It was about the size of a few palms. The purple light there was rather strong. He threw out a piece of cooled lava the size of a walnut and said, "Uncle Tiger, pick." Tiger Love had been staring at Lei Xingfeng's hand. When he threw the stone, he immediately stared at the place where it would fall. The spear in his hand pierced into the lava flow. With a sudden flick, a large lump of lava flew towards Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng took a few steps back. The lump of lava immediately fell under his feet. Ha ha, 2 purple crystals. Top-grade purple crystals. Ha! Purple crystals the size of apricots were definitely of the highest quality. Tiger Love was also excited. He said, again, ha ha. With the tacit cooperation, wherever Lei Xingfeng pointed, Tiger Love would pick. Furthermore, Lei Xingfeng was not in a hurry to cool the lava. He waited until more than 10 lumps of lava had been picked up. Then, he poured water on them and collected the purple crystals. Xian Zhaoluan's harvest on the other side was smaller. He also could not see any purple light. However, he had a trick. He specifically picked different places in the lava flow. For example, it was slightly darker or especially bright. This way, he could get a few purple crystals. At this time, Lei Xingfeng understood that his eyes were different. He could see light that others could not. This was especially obvious when he was mining. In 3 days, Lei Xingfeng had obtained more than 300 top-grade purple crystals. As for the purple crystals that were not as good, Lei Xingfeng gave most of them away. He especially gave Xian Zhaoluan 100 pieces of purple crystals the size of a thumb. Xian Zhaoluan was almost overjoyed. He kept saying that it was fortunate that he had brought Lei Xingfeng along. Otherwise, he would not have such a big harvest. As for Jean Daya, Lei Xingfeng also took out a lot of purple crystals that he did not like. He asked them to use other ores to exchange. Jean Daya was very willing and took out a lot of newly excavated ores as well as some rare ores that he had obtained before. Lei Xingfeng only had to pay a few small purple crystals to get a lot of ores and even refined materials. Chuizi and Kuang Fu also dug up a lot of ores. Other than giving them to Xian Zhaoluan, they also exchanged with Lei Xingfeng and Jean Daya for many items. Most of them were food. The 2 of them were very interested in Lei Xingfeng's braised meat and cured meat. In this exchange, Lei Xingfeng gained a lot. He had collected a lot of food in his hidden Luin space. It was enough for him to eat for 10 years without a problem. Of course, Chuizi and Kuang Fu had to make the exchange. They could not take the ores away because they did not have a hidden Luin space. Even if they made the exchange, the items would be left with Lei Xingfeng. They would have to wait until they returned to Hanya Castle to get the food. On this day, Lei Xingfeng was still beside the lava, instructing Tiger Love to fish for purple crystals when Xian Zhaoluan walked over. He said, "Afeng, we're about to leave. Oh my God, how many purple crystals do you need?" Lei Xingfeng chuckled. "These things can be exchanged with the founder for yin rings. Uncle Tiger and Uncle Ling both lack yin rings. I need to save up a lot. If I exchange with the founder for yin rings, I need to save up some yin rings for myself." Using yin rings to train subordinates was a necessary method for the hidden sect. Otherwise, when they reached the outer world without powerful subordinates, how could they obtain resources? Xian Zhaoluan nodded. "You finally understand what's important. Hee. With this batch of purple crystals, you can exchange for a lot of yin rings. Even if Master and the Founder can't use them, they can use them to trade with other monarchs. We'll leave tomorrow. Today, you can fish as much as you want." He was actually very depressed. No matter how hard he tried, the amount of purple crystals he dug up was not even a fraction of what Lei Xingfeng had. He was so angry that he went to dig for other ores. Chapter 163. Fortunately, Lei Xingfeng had given him a lot of purple crystals. This was how they helped each other. After all, without Xian Zhaoluan's help, Lei Xingfeng wouldn't have been able to come here. After all, this mine was obtained by Xian Zhaoluan. Without his permission, Lei Xingfeng wouldn't have been able to come here. Lei Xingfeng smiled. "If we can come here again in the future, I won't have to work so hard to get more." Xian Zhaoluan said with Purple crystals, we can still come here. This is an opportunity exchanged with purple crystals. I'm really lucky to be able to bring you along this time. I thought this was the only chance. Hee hee, I didn't expect to find so many purple crystals. Lei Xingfeng was a little confused. Why don't we let Master come? He should be able to get more purple crystals. Xian Zhaoluan smiled bitterly. Neither Master nor Patriarch are willing to come here. Lei Xingfeng was puzzled. Why? Xian Zhaoluan said, because of suppression. If Master comes here, his strength will be suppressed to about the same as mine. This means danger. They aren't willing to take this risk. Having a disciple is enough. Therefore, the top fighting force here is a 9th ring sage. Lei Xingfeng said, will all the outer worlds suppress their cultivation? Xian Zhaoluan said, no, some outer worlds will even increase their cultivation. They are all different. Also, you can't stay in an outer world for long. If it's long, it'll be a few years. If it's short, it'll be 10 days. After that, you have to return to the secret door. Otherwise, it'll be harmful to your body. Lei Xingfeng said in surprise, there's such a drawback. All right, I understand. He still lacked a lot of knowledge and experience, but he knew that as long as he didn't get besieged by a large number of experts of the same level, he wouldn't be in any danger. Xian Zhaoluan said, once again, I went to an outer world. Hee hee, that shitty place. Even my cultivation was suppressed. That place is most suitable for 8th ring sages. Hee hee, there are a few places where you can play after you reach 6th ring. There are usually more powerful beasts there. Lei Xingfeng said, beast? You mean to go hunting? Xian Zhaoluan nodded and said, yes, it's hunting because the wild beasts there, their meat is often of the highest quality. Not only is it delicious, but it's also good for the body. Besides these, it can also cultivate one's combat experience and awareness. Hunting, harvesting, and fighting, it's killing several birds with one stone. Many people from the secret sects go there. Lei Xingfeng was busy until he was about to leave. After tidying up, he came to the place where everyone was gathered. Xian Zhaoluan said, let's go back as soon as possible. The weather is getting cold. We better get back to Hanya Castle before it gets cold. Lei Xingfeng said, it's too hot here. When we get to the exit, we'll wear thick clothes. He was only wearing thin pants and an unlined shirt. It's cold outside. Lei Xingfeng felt the real cold for the first time. Even though he was wrapped up like a big bag, the cold wind directly penetrated his body. The bone-chilling cold even made his leather robe harden. Lei Xingfeng was forced to use electric arcs to flash around his body. Other than Chuizi and Kuang Fu, everyone else was covered in a layer of faint light. If not for this, they would probably be frozen in the extreme cold. Chuizi and Kuang Fu's face also showed a serious expression. Even if they were natives, they were still afraid of this kind of cold. Chuizi said, we have to go quickly. We can't stay here for long. We have to move around as much as possible. Otherwise, we'll be frozen. As he spoke, he kept shivering. Xian Zhaoluan said, let's go. A rope tied the 7 of them together. The 7 of them quickly walked towards Hanya Castle. The wind got stronger. The roaring wind even let out a sharp and ear-piercing sound, causing pain in people's ears. Lei Xingfeng could not help but curse. This is really a killing wind. Even if his eyesight was good, he could not see more than 10 meters in front of him. Lei Xingfeng was still holding a steel shield in his hand, blocking the oncoming wind. This way, he could slightly reduce the bone-chilling cold. When the snowflakes hit the shield, the sound of metal colliding could be heard, and the tinkling sound did not stop. Lei Xingfeng could not help but say, what the hell? This is scary. This time, Even Mad Eagle and Tiger Love had to admit that this kind of weather was not suitable for people to live in. Even if they were wrapped in thick leather robes, other than their eyes, they could still feel the crazy cold. They had to constantly activate their defenses to expel the cold from the robes. Otherwise, their bodies would quickly become stiff. After much difficulty, they finally reached the first resting spot. Everyone quickly ate some dry rations and recovered their cultivation. Then, they threw themselves into the blizzard. Luckily, they had Chweezy and Kwang Fu to lead the way. Otherwise, none of them would have the ability to find the right path in this kind of weather. This was also a special ability of the natives. No matter where they walked, they would not get lost. It was a rare, peaceful journey. They did not meet anyone, nor did any animals appear. After a few days of arduous trekking, the 7 of them finally returned to Hanya Castle. When Miao Ling saw Xian Jiaoluan and Lei Xingfeng, she began to complain, "It's so cold. I can't even go out. It's too cold." She shrunk into a pile of beast skins, only revealing her face. Lei Xingfeng could not help but want to laugh. It was too funny. Xiao Dia sat in front of a brazier and said, "It's good to cultivate here. I'm about to level up, but it's really too cold here. Even if I wear so much, it's useless. I heard Sister Hong say that there's no one outside anymore." Lei Xingfeng laughed. "When we came back, we still saw many natives outside. Hee hee, but most of them are hiding in their rooms to cultivate." Xian Jiaoluan said, "It won't be so cold all the time. The special thing about this place is that after the extreme cold, it will warm up for 10 days. After that, it will get even colder and then warm up for a few days. So there's no need to worry. During the warm days, you guys can still go out and take a breather." Although the room was warmer than outside, Miao Ling was still shivering. Only by cultivating hard could she temporarily forget about the cold. As a result, her cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. Miao Ling said, "Oh, right, there's one more thing. Sister Hong said that someone brought us an invitation card and invited us somewhere. Xiao Dia, go and call Sister Hong over." Xiao Dia ran to the door, lifted the curtain, and shouted outside, "Sister Hong! Sister Hong, come quickly!" After shouting a few times, he ran back to the brazier and continued to warm himself. After a while, Sister Hong walked in and said, "What's the matter?" Miao Ling said, "Sister Hong, that invitation card." Sister Hong laughed. "The invitation card is with me. 3rd Master, 9th Master, this is sent by Grandpa Mao. The underground trade fair has already started. Grandpa Mao sent a few invitation cards." Xian Jiaoluan said, "Trade fair, hee hee, not bad. I've already prepared it. We must go. Junior sister, come with us." Miao Ling said, "I don't want to go out. It's so cold." Xian Jiaoluan laughed. "Little fool, the underground trade fair is underground. It's very warm there." Miao Ling's eyes lit up. She said, "Wah, okay, I'll go. I want to go. But how do I go out?" She was really afraid of the cold. Sister Hong laughed. "It's very close. Just activate your defensive barrier. With this distance, there's no need to be afraid. No matter how cold it is, there's nothing to be afraid of." Miao Ling also reacted and said happily, Okay, I'll activate my defensive barrier. Hee hee, is there a place to stay in the underground trade fair? Can I rent a place there?" Xian Jiaoluan said, "Training underground is not as effective as training above ground. Staying underground is not a good choice." Miao Ling's face turned bitter. She said, "Okay, I'll go and warm myself up. I'll come back later." She knew that training was more important. She would not give up on training just because of the warmth. Lei Xingfeng also had an invitation card. He laughed. "Interesting, there are only 3 invitation cards. The others don't have any. How did they know that the three of us are in charge here? Xian Zhaoluan said, "Don't be surprised. This is what we registered. We don't need to register when we enter this world, but when we enter Hanya Castle, we must have a record. This is the rule. It's mainly to prevent outsiders from doing whatever they want. In Hanya Castle, there are still rules. Most of the outsiders had their own secret sects, and most of them lived in secret space. They belonged to the most mysterious group of people. There were also countless disputes between secret sects, and there were often fights and even wars. However, there was one thing that was almost invariable, and that was that the monarchs would not participate in it. The battles between monarchs were limited to monarchs. Of course, this was only on the surface. It was very normal for monarchs to secretly kill some low-level practitioners. There is a tacit understanding between secret sections. Under normal circumstances, they are more cautious of each other and will not do things openly. Unless there is a huge benefit, then there will be conflicts and fights. But if there is a chance to settle it peacefully, then most of them will choose to negotiate and try to quell the possibility of a fight. It must be known that once a fight or war happens, the losses will cause the secret sects to decline. This is not something that both sides want to see. Xian Zhaoluan said, "Let's go back and rest first. Tomorrow we will go to the trade fair. Feng, Shaoling, there are many good things there. Hee, but you have to prepare your own things. You can barter there. You can also use Luan rings and Luanine rings to buy things. Of course, Yin rings are even better, but Yin rings rarely appear." Lei Xingfeng brought Mad Eagle and Tiger Love back. Back in his room, Mad Eagle was busy burning a charcoal brazier for him. Lei Xingfeng set up a big pot and began to cook a stew. The three of them had a meal. Mad Eagle said, "One invitation card can bring 2 people in. Let's go together tomorrow." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "Okay. I know you got a lot of materials this time. Are you planning to exchange them for some Yin rings?" Mad Eagle nodded. "The effect of cultivating here is great. If I have Yin rings, I might be able to advance. Tiger should be able to do the same." Shirhu smiled. "That's right. As long as I have enough Yin rings, I'll be able to ascend. Ha! To be able to take another step forward is something I've always dreamed of. An 8th ring sage body is still a bit weak, especially in the outer world." Chapter 164. Lei Xingfeng said, "I don't understand. How many worlds can a secret door lead to?" Mad Eagle shook his head. "I'm not too sure either, but I know that a monarch can have a secret door. Of course, this secret door needs to be refined, and a monarch's secret door can only lead to 3 worlds. As for how to open it and determine the destination, I don't know." Lei Xingfeng looked forward to it. He said, "Damn, I must become a monarch." Feng Ying's mouth opened slightly, but after thinking for a bit, he closed it again. Xian Feng saw it clearly and spoke, "Uncle Ling, if there's anything, just say it." Tiger Love laughed. "I know what he wants to say. Hee. Mad Eagle said, Bullshit. You know what I want to say? Tiger Love laughed. Of course, we've been together for so many years. I know what you want to shit when you stick out your... But, haha. Mad Eagle said, angrily, bullshit. Tell me, what did I want to say just now? Tiger Love said, it's simple. You have a lot of doubts about becoming a monarch. Mad Eagle was immediately discouraged. He muttered, damn, this guy, was I that obvious? Tiger Love nodded. That's right, it's that obvious. Mad Eagle could only admit. He said, yes, there are too few people who can become a monarch. If a phone can become a monarch, I'll be so happy. Sigh, it's hard. A phone, I'm not trying to discourage you, but Tiger Love, and I want you to become a monarch. Lei Xingfeng waved his hand. I understand. Don't worry, I'll definitely become a monarch. He said confidently. Actually, he didn't know if he could become a monarch, but he knew that if he didn't have the confidence, then there was no need to talk about becoming a monarch. Hanya Castle's underground trade fair was quite famous in the secret sex. Even a small number of true monarchs would secretly come and get some rare materials. Even though this world wasn't suitable for living, it had large amounts of rare materials. This was an incredibly good place, but just the climate alone was enough to stop most people. Only a small number of elites would be able to gather good things. Xian Zhaoluan brought Xiao Dia, Lei Xingfeng brought Mad Eagle and Tiger Love, and Miao Ling brought Sister Hong to the underground trade fair. The location of the trade fair was set up in the huge underground space of Hanya Castle, occupying an area of about 800 square meters. It was neither big nor small, because there weren't many people who were qualified to come here. Even though it was 800 square meters, it was still quite spacious. There were only a few stalls, and most of the people were wandering back and forth. Lei Xingfeng said, this is the trade fair? It's too quiet. Xian Zhaoluan smiled and said, it's okay. This is just a small transaction outside. There will be a small auction later. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, what are the conditions for participating in the auction? Xian Zhaoluan said, you have to take out some items from the auction or take out some rings as deposit. Lei Xingfeng smiled. We got so many purple crystals. Why don't we take out some for the auction? I want to see how much these things are worth. Xian Zhaoluan said, don't take out the big ones, use a few small ones. Let's see what's going on. Lei Xingfeng agreed, but before he could say anything, someone shouted from not far away, bullshit! Do you want to rob us? Xian Zhaoluan said softly, back off. Boom! The two of them suddenly attacked and clashed head-on. A shockwave spread out, and everyone in the hall immediately activated their defenses. Miao Ling was shocked. Oh my God, how dare they fight here? It'll collapse. Hong Jie shielded her and said, back off, back off. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love protected Lei Xingfeng on the left and right. Xian Zhaoluan couldn't help but curse. Damn, they must be newcomers. They don't know anything, and they dare to fight. They're looking for death. The crowd in the hall quickly dispersed, revealing the two who fought. The crowd in the underground trade fair quickly dispersed. Everyone here was a cultivator, and the weakest of them had 3 or 4 rings. They were already used to fighting, and when they saw a fight, they immediately retreated to avoid being affected. After a loud sound, the two of them stood opposite each other like fighting cocks. They didn't continue to fight. Lei Xingfeng looked on curiously and said, these two are very brave. I think there must be someone powerful guarding here. Xian Zhaoluan smiled. Look at them carefully. Lei Xingfeng realized that something was wrong. The two of them were restrained by a power that he didn't know about. From the surface, he couldn't see anything wrong with them. Only when he looked closely did he realize that the two of them were standing still like fighting cocks. It was because they didn't move that Lei Xingfeng realized that something was wrong. He realized that the two of them were immediately restrained by some power after exchanging a blow. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Who did it?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "No one did. They were restrained by a small seal set by the true Lord. Whoever fights here will face the same consequences. Even I can't do anything." Lei Xingfeng said, "Restrained, then who will deal with them?" Xian Zhaoluan smiled. "No one will deal with them. Haha, but if they want to get away, they will be restrained for at least 2 days and 2 nights. Lei Xingfeng said, "Wow, this punishment is really harsh." "Oh, right, what is that small seal?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "I'm not very sure. That thing can only be mastered by true lords. If you don't reach the level of true lord, you won't be able to learn and control it. I heard that the small seal came from another continent. It's not something that we developed here." Lei Xingfeng couldn't think of anything about the True Lord Society for the time being. He was still very curious, so he asked, "What will happen if the two of them continue to fight after they are freed?" Xian Zhaoluan smiled. "They won't fight anymore. If they fight again, they can only attack once and then be restrained for 2 days. No one can take it. Ha! I believe that the two of them won't be so stupid. One lesson is enough." Lei Xingfeng said, "Seems like it's their first time here. They don't know the secret of this place." Miao Ling stared at the two of them curiously. Xian Zhaoluan said, "Xiaoling, don't stare at them. Don't get angry." Miao Ling said, "They can't move. If I get angry, they can't move." Xian Zhaoluan said, "They can't move, but that doesn't mean they won't be able to move forever. When they can move and leave, they can still come and find trouble with you." Miao Ling stuck out her tongue. She immediately hugged Hongjie's arm and said softly, "Hongjie, you will protect me, right?" Hongjie said, "All right, stop acting like a spoiled child. You're already so old, don't act like a child." After walking around, Lei Xingfeng didn't find any materials to exchange. He was a little disappointed. "There's nothing." Xian Zhaoluan said, "It depends on luck. There aren't many people now. Let's wait for a while." Lei Xingfeng said, "All right, I'll go take a look." Mad Eagle and Tiger Love naturally followed him. Miao Ling brought Hongjie, and the two of them ran to the other side. The two of them whispered to each other. Xian Zhaoluan brought Xiaodia and ran to the front. Those who wanted to exchange laid beast skins on the ground and placed their items on top. There were all kinds of materials. There were many things that Lei Xingfeng didn't recognize. Luckily, Mad Eagle and Tiger Love were there. The two of them were quite knowledgeable and could recognize most of them. After walking around, he met Xian Zhaoluan again. Xian Zhaoluan asked, "Did you see anything good?" Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly. "No, I didn't find anything special." Xian Zhaoluan said, "There's something special over there. You can go take a look." Lei Xingfeng asked, "What is it?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "It's the ice beast meat that is a specialty of this place. They probably hunted it before." Lei Xingfeng immediately lost interest. He said, "Meat, I have a lot of it. I don't lack this." Xian Zhaoluan laughed. "This meat is different. Eating it can increase your resistance to the cold." Lei Xingfeng said, "This is not bad. All right, let's go in exchange for some." "Oh, right, is it expensive?" He didn't have any idea about trading here. Xian Zhaoluan laughed. "It's very cheap. You can exchange it with food." Lei Xingfeng followed Xian Zhaoluan to a stall. There were a few pieces of white meat on the beast skin. Lei Xingfeng said, "Why is it so little?" The owner of the stall was an 8th ring sage. He glanced at Lei Xingfeng and said, "This is a sample. I have as much as you want. You can exchange it for food, rice, or noodles. 1 gene for 1 gene." Xian Zhaoluan said, 1 gene for 1 gene? 1 gene for at least 2 gene. The person said, that's fine too. At least 1,000 gene. We're short on food. Xian Feng couldn't help but shake his head. This man was very honest. He even shouted that he was lacking in food. He was too lazy to bargain, because when he came, he brought a lot of food, exchanging it for some local ice beast meat. He felt that it was worth it. 1,000 gene of food for 2,000 gene of ice beast meat. The two exchanged very quickly. Both of them had hidden Luan spaces. The transaction was completed in an instant. The person was very satisfied. He said, I still have some ice beast blood here. Do you want to exchange? It would be best if you have dried vegetables. 1 gene for 1 gene. How about that? The blood was blue and had already solidified into ice. A fist-sized chunk weighed about half a kilogram. Xian Zhaoluan said, this can be exchanged. The ice beast blood is delicious and can be used as a seasoning. It's a specialty here. Lei Xingfeng exchanged a few genes of dried mushrooms. Both sides were happy. The transaction was completed. The person said, Cheng Wu, 8th ring sage. If you want ice beast meat in the future, come find me. Lei Xingfeng and the rest signed up and left. For 3 consecutive days, Lei Xingfeng and the rest wandered around the trade fair. They exchanged for some things, but nothing special. On the 4th day, Lei Xingfeng, Mad Eagle, Xian Zhaoluan, and Jean Daya returned to the trade fair. As for Miaoling, she didn't come again on the 2nd day. She hid in her room to cultivate because it was getting colder outside. Even though the trade fair was only a short 10 minutes away, she didn't want to go out. After Xian Zhaoluan entered the trade fair, he smiled. There's a small auction today. Hee, only 9th ring sages can participate. Of course, I can bring 1 person in. Big Tooth can bring 1 person in too. That way, all 4 of us can enter. Chapter 165. Jean Daya said, I heard a few monarchs are coming this time. Xian Zhaoluan smiled. Yes, perhaps you can get a lot of Yin rings. Jean Daya was relying on Yin rings to prolong his life. To him, nothing was more important than Yin rings. There was no way Jean Daya would let go of the chance to participate in a small auction hosted by a monarch. After all, only a monarch could condense Yin rings, and monarchs weren't easy to find. When Lei Xingfeng walked into the so-called auction house, he couldn't help but feel disappointed. This auction was different from what he had imagined. There was no auctioneer and no one to collect and appraise items. Instead, if you had something, you could go up and display it. Then you could ask for an exchange. For example, if you needed something, you could just say it. If someone below was willing to trade, then your auction was a success. Of course, it was also possible to directly exchange for Yin rings without exchanging for physical items. Generally speaking, most of the people here use bartering. Since Yin rings were hard currency, they were very useful in this kind of situation. With a monarch present, there would be more people exchanging Yin rings for materials. Lei Xingfeng had already made up his mind. He would use some purple crystals to trade for Yin rings. If there was something suitable for him, he would use the Yin rings he got to bid. The auction house was a small room. There was a stage in the middle, surrounded by low chairs. Those who entered sat down, casually. After Lei Xingfeng and the others entered, they found a corner and sat down, waiting quietly. Soon, an old man appeared. He stood in front of the stage and said, Same rules. If anyone needs to come up and display their materials, please step forward. Oh, right. Don't bring those trashy materials up. Everyone should know these rules. All right, let the auction begin. He turned and left. Lei Xingfeng was surprised. That's it. His voice was very small. Xian Zhaoluan smiled and whispered back, What did you think? There were about 40 people in the room, and about 30 of them were 9th ring sages. Some of the ninth ring sages didn't bring their followers with them, and some of them were perfected lords. However, no one could tell who was the perfected lord, as they all blended into the crowd. A middle-aged woman walked up and said, "I'll go first. May E, ninth ring sage." A fist-sized material was placed on the stage. She said, 72 pieces of bright spiritual stone. They're about the same size as this one. I'm too lazy to trade for anything else. I want rings. The highest bidder gets it. She didn't say anything else and waited quietly. Lei Xingfeng thought, damn, they're really direct. No promotion, nothing. What a strange way. Someone shouted, "I'll trade Siobhan for Siobhan, 1 for 1. Mei frowned. "I'm not interested in it." The man bitterly smiled. 1 ring for 2 spirit silk bright stones. Mei frowned again. She felt that the other party had set a low price and said, "This price is too low." Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but rub his forehead. This kind of auction wouldn't incite any competition. As expected, no one bid. Mei's face darkened. She shook her head and said, "If it's 1 for 1, I can reluctantly agree. Your price is too low. Forget it. I'll let it go this time." She put away the bright spiritual stone on the stage and turned to leave. Lei Xingfeng was stunned. He whispered, "You've already bid. How can you go back on your word? What kind of auction is this?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "This is how auctions are. What did you expect?" Xian Feng was instantly speechless. He was also prejudiced. The auctions of his previous life had a fixed pattern in his mind, but it was different here. He spoke, "Oh, right, senior brother, can I go up?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "You can go up as long as you're here. However, don't trade with low-level items. You'll be laughed at." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "I'll go up." Xian Zhaoluan couldn't help but laugh. He said, "What are you going to trade with?" Lei Xingfeng laughed. Top-grade purple crystals. He actually had a lot of things that he could sell, but the top-grade purple crystals were undoubtedly the best. He had gotten a lot of them, enough for him to trade. Xian Zhaoluan smiled. "All right, go ahead." Lei Xingfeng walked out. Everyone could clearly see his strength. He was only a sage with 5 true ring bodies. Everyone's faces were filled with disappointment and disdain. A little guy dared to trade. Lei Xingfeng walked to the front of the stage, calmly. He reached out and swiped the stage. A string of top-grade purple crystals appeared. There were more than 20 apricot-sized purple crystals. They emitted a mesmerizing purple light. He slowly said, 23 top-grade purple crystals for rings. Immediately, there was a commotion below the stage. Top-grade purple crystals were very hard to come by. They were materials that monarchs needed. Immediately, someone asked, "Little guy, how much do you want to trade?" Lei Xingfeng raised a finger and laughed. 1 ring as the starting price. For example, if you offer 1 ring and no one bids against you, then 1 ring can be traded for these 23 top-grade purple crystals. Of course, if someone offers 2 rings, then the purple crystals will belong to them. The highest bidder wins. With a loud boom, the crowd became excited. 1 top-quality purple crystal for 3 or 4 rings wouldn't be surprising. If they met a monarch who had more purple crystals, even 5 or 6 rings would be possible. In other words, 23 top-quality purple crystals for 100 rings wasn't a big deal. However, Lei Xingfeng only asked for 1 ring. This was too tempting. Someone yelled, 1 ring. I'll offer 1 ring. Lei Xingfeng thought, this guy is trying to steal the chicken. He laughed. Someone has already offered 1 ring. Anyone else? If you can offer 2 rings, then you have a chance of getting a top-grade purple crystal. Anyone else? I'll offer 3. I'll offer 10 rings. 20. I'll offer 100 rings. 120. Xian Zhaoluan, Jean Dia, and Mad Eagle were all dumbfounded. You can play like this? In just a few minutes, the price had risen to 153 rings. Lei Xingfeng pointed at the person and yelled, "This person has offered 153 rings. Very impressive. A very generous expert has already offered 153 rings. Anyone else? If there's no one else, then this top-grade purple crystal will go to this rich guest." 160 rings. Lei Xingfeng's saliva flew everywhere as he raised the price. The entire room seemed to be boiling. When the price broke through 200 rings, Jean Dia's jaw almost dropped. Xian Zhaoluan kept shaking his head. He couldn't believe it. One top-grade purple crystal was almost worth 10 rings. This price was completely unreasonable. Finally, the price was set at 230 rings. In other words, one top-grade purple crystal was worth 10 rings, which was more than double the normal price. Lei Xingfeng put away the 230 rings and walked down from the stage. This time, no one looked down on him. Everyone's eyes shone with the light of contemplation. Mei Yi, who had left the stage earlier, was especially annoyed. She lightly tapped her head, her face full of unwillingness. Lei Xingfeng sat down. Mad Eagle gave him a big thumbs up and said, "Afong, you're smart." Xian Zhaoluan said, "Little brother, how did you come up with this idea? It's amazing." Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "It's okay, it's okay." Actually, he knew deep down that it wasn't because he was smart. There were many auctions like this in his past life. Even if he hadn't seen it himself, he'd heard of it many times. Very quickly, others followed suit. Others began to follow Lei Xingfeng's auctions, but the results weren't very good. After a few people finished their auctions, Lei Xingfeng still didn't see what he wanted. However, he still liked this kind of occasion. It allowed him to broaden his horizons. There were many things he hadn't seen before. From time to time, he'd ask Xian Zhaoluan or Big Teeth Jean about them. He enjoyed it. At this time, an old man walked up and said, "Big Furry Cat, 9th Ring Sage. This is a star python record. This is a star python record from ancient times. It records the trick of condensing a lightning strike for the lightning attribute. It is a very interesting star python record. If there is someone whose junior is a low-level lightning attribute cultivator, this thing would be a very good gift." Lei Xingfeng's eyes lit up. This was something he urgently needed right now. It was something that could only be found by chance. He whispered, "How can something like this exist?" Someone shouted, "What's this? Who would want something like this?" "Yeah, this kind of low-level thing. Don't take it out." The old man's face reddened. He said, "This thing isn't bad, right? I'll trade it for 5 rings. Who wants it?" Everyone was silent. After all, most of them were 9th ring experts. No one would spend money on a 6th ring sage's technique to condense seals, even if it was a very rare technique. This was because it was useless to them. Rings were needed by 9th ring sages. So who would spend 5 rings to exchange for it? However, there was still Lei Xingfeng here. He had 5 true ring bodies. Once he advanced, he would need to condense his own Lei. Although he had the Lei given to him by Elder Thunderstorm, it was someone else's Lei. Therefore, when Lei Xingfeng heard about this good thing, he was determined to get it. "I'll pay 5 rings." Lei Xingfeng stood up. Everyone looked at Lei Xingfeng and immediately understood. Everyone cursed Big Mao in their hearts. This guy was targeting Lei Xingfeng. A smile appeared on Big Mao's face. This star python record was something he had obtained a long time ago and was of no use to him. Just now, when Xian Feng was on the stage, He had clearly seen that this little fellow had 5 true ring bodies and was of the rare lightning attribute. Thus, he thought of his own star python record and decided to extort some money from Exion Foam. With this star python record, it wasn't worth a single een ring. It would be good enough if it could be traded for a few dozen Lewin rings. Big Mao directly asked for 5 een rings. As expected, Lei Xingfeng stood up to trade. He was extremely happy. Een rings were extremely important to a 9th ring sage. It was extremely difficult for him to get a single een ring. He didn't think that a useless star python record could be traded for 5 een rings. Big Mao was all smiles as he took the 5 een rings back. Everyone couldn't help but admire this guy's foresight. Lei Xingfeng didn't think that he had lost out. After confirming the records in the star python record, he went back with a smile. He was so happy that his heart was beating wildly. This kind of thing was more important than anything else. Chapter 166. Another old man walked up. He glanced at Lei Xingfeng and smiled. I have a chaos wheel, a lightning-type weapon. Hee, little guy, do you have any more purple crystals? If you do, you can trade for them. The crowd was in an uproar. There were actually 2 people who wanted to trade with Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng stood up and smiled. Senior, can you introduce this chaos wheel? The old man said, everyone knows that before becoming a monarch, whether it's a 1st ring sage or a 9th ring sage, most people don't have a weapon. Even if they do, it's hard to find a suitable weapon because there are no true weapon makers below the 9th ring level. The chaos wheel in my hand is a lightning-type weapon. With a 6th ring sage and Lei Yin, this weapon will be very useful. Hee, little guy, if you have this weapon, you can challenge those above your level without any problems. He continued, and this weapon also has a temptation that you can't resist. Hee, you can use it until you become a 9th ring sage. By then, this weapon will still be very useful. Lei Xingfeng was secretly happy. How many purple crystals do you want? But let me remind you, I don't have many left. I still have some left for my elders. The old man smiled. I don't want much, just 10. Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly. That's too high, 5 at most. The old man said, too little, 9. The 2 of them started to bargain. The crowd was speechless. Finally, the 2 of them reached a deal. 7 purple crystals were exchanged for the old man's chaos wheel weapon. Lei Xingfeng happily ran to the side of the stage and exchanged with the old man. Lei Xingfeng took the chaos wheel back to his seat and grinned happily. He didn't expect to gain so much. He always believed that the best was better than anything else. When Lei Xingfeng sat down, he realized that this old man was definitely a monarch because he didn't sign up at all. Generally speaking, those who didn't sign up were most likely monarchs. They only came here to collect things that interested them and didn't care about anything else. Sure enough, as soon as Lei Xingfeng sat down, Exion Zhaoluan whispered, Damn, I'm sweating. This is a monarch. You really dare to bargain. Lei Xingfeng was a little slow. He whispered, Sai, I didn't expect, Exion Zhaoluan said, but don't worry, I was just afraid that you wouldn't agree to the exchange and offend him. Since he agreed, then it's fine. With their status, if they agree to the exchange, there won't be any problems. Hee. Lei Xingfeng played with the chaos wheel. This thing wasn't big, not more than 30 centimeters in diameter. It was flat and round, and gradually shrank into a sharp blade. Lei Xingfeng gently pressed the center of the chaos wheel, and there was a slight cracking sound. The chaos wheel actually split into 3 chaos wheels. It looked like the chaos wheel was made up of 3 layers. This thing wasn't a weapon, but a set of 3. Exion Zhaoluan was surprised. Damn, this is a set of weapons. A phone, you've struck gold. Lei Xingfeng couldn't wait to leave, so he could test the power of this weapon. He said, "If only I could try it." Jean Dia also had a lot of purple crystals. Seeing Lei Xingfeng exchange for so many yin rings, he couldn't help but regret letting Lei Xingfeng get first. Plus, the quality of the purple crystals he got was far inferior to Lei Xingfeng's. Seeing the cultivators walk up the stage one by one, Jean Dia finally gritted his teeth and went up. He was counting on the purple crystals he got this time to exchange for a certain amount of yin rings. Jean Dia, 9th ring sage. Hee, I have some purple crystals here, but they aren't of the highest quality. I'll exchange them for some yin rings, nothing else. As Jean Dia spoke, he put the purple crystals he collected on the stage. There were purple crystals of all sizes. The largest was the size of a finger, and the smallest was the size of a grain of sand. Someone said, "Hey, how many yin rings do you want? Give me a number." Jean Dia hesitated. He originally wanted to use Lei Xingfeng's method of auctioning and start with 1 yin ring, but he was worried about losing it. Thinking about the low quality of his purple crystals, he didn't dare to take such a risk. He said, 20 purple crystals, all of them." Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but shake his head inwardly. This kind of exchange with no confidence was impossible to get a satisfactory number of yin rings. As expected, no one answered him. Jean Dia was clearly getting impatient. He said, 19 yin rings, all of them. No one wants them? 18. Someone took advantage of the situation and said, 5 yin rings for all of them. Jean Dia's forehead was covered in sweat. He shook his head. That's too little. At least 10, 15. Lei Xingfeng whispered, "He's going to lose." Xian Zhaoluan couldn't help but shake his head. He said, "He's too impatient." Someone said, 6. Jean Dia's eyes were filled with despair. He saw the mocking smiles on the faces of many people. He panicked. He cared too much. Xian Zhaoluan said, "A phone, help him. It's not easy for Big Tooth." Lei Xingfeng hesitated, but still stood up. He walked to Jean Dia's side and said, "Big brother Jean, let me do it." Jean Dia let out a sigh of relief. He was about to die of frustration. He said, All right. I'm sorry, everyone. Leave these purple crystals to my brother." He took a step back and gave his place to Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng said calmly, "All right, everyone. My brother is a little shy, so I'll do it." Immediately, there was a burst of laughter. After a joke, Lei Xingfeng said, "Just now, someone called for 16 rings. Is there anyone else who wants to bid higher?" The crowd was silent. Jean Dia began to sweat again. Lei Xingfeng laughed. "If there's no one else, then congratulations to this friend. You will receive this pile of purple crystals. Although these aren't the highest quality, they're still very rare. The quantity, there's quite a lot. At the very least, the value is about the same as 5 highest quality purple crystals. 6 yin rings for 5 highest quality purple crystals. This is a great deal. I'm going to bid 2. 7 yin rings. Big brother Jean, let me have it." There was another burst of laughter. Jean Dia wiped his sweat and said, "You handle it." Although he was very slow, he wasn't an idiot. If he was, he wouldn't have been able to reach 9th ring. Lei Xingfeng said, "All right, I'll bid 7. Who else? If no one else bids, these purple crystals are all mine." He was taking advantage of a loophole. He knew that the people here didn't understand the auction methods he used in his previous life. As the host of the auction, he definitely wasn't allowed to bid. He didn't care about this and directly made a bid. Humans were strange. If no one competed, then no matter how good an item was, it was still trash. If someone competed, then even trash could be sold for a high price. Someone called out, 8. Lei Xingfeng was overjoyed. He knew that, with this start, the rest would be easy. Then, under Jean Daya's dumbfounded gaze, round after round of bidding began. It was only when the price reached 30 yin rings that the bidding slowed down. Jean Daya was so excited that his face was flushed red. He still couldn't understand why no one bid when he only wanted 20 yin rings. But when Lei Xingfeng came up, someone had already bid 33 yin rings. It was unbelievable. The final price stopped at 38 yin rings. After all, this pile of purple crystals wasn't the highest quality. This price was already overestimated. Jean Daya held the 38 yin rings in his hand, feeling a little surreal. He was dragged back to his seat by Lei Xingfeng, grinning from ear to ear. He looked like a mouse that had fallen into a rice bowl. After a while, Jean Daya finally reacted. He said, "Brother, from now on, you're my brother. If there's anything you need, as long as you find me, I won't refuse." Xian Zhaoluan laughed. "Afeng, you'll have an expert helping you from now on." "Hee, a 9th ring sage. Maybe it's not rare here, but back where we come from, you'll be an expert that can't come." Lei Xingfeng smiled. "Then I'll thank you in advance, Brother Jean." Xian Zhaoluan laughed. "Big Tooth, it's too hard for you. Why don't you come help Afeng? You're more than qualified to be a guard." Jean Daya shook his head. "Forget it. I prefer to be alone. I don't like to be restrained, and I'm not good at socializing with people." Xian Zhaoluan said, "Big Tooth, you don't understand. If you can enter the hidden door, you won't have to worry about yin rings anymore. It's better than begging your grandparents. How much did you spend just to come to Hanya Castle? You can't stay here forever. If you want to go back, you'll have to spend a lot of money again. It's too tiring." Jean Daya was silent. After a while, he sighed. "I'll think about it, Sai." Mad Eagle said, "If you come, you can be a Feng's guard. You'll be treated like the first." He wasn't jealous. Even if Lei Xingfeng couldn't become a monarch, he could still form his own faction. Of course, the stronger he was, the more benefits he would get. Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Ing, let Brother Jean think about it." Jean Daya rolled his eyes and said, "You should call me Uncle Jean. I'm older than Mad Eagle." Lei Xingfeng raised his hands in surrender. Okay, call me Uncle Jean." "Uncle Jean, is that okay?" Jean Daya was satisfied. "That's more like it." The auction ended quickly. Xian Zhaoluan left with everyone. The one with the biggest gains this time was Lei Xingfeng, followed by Jean Daya. The others had limited gains. Xian Zhaoluan didn't plan on auctioning off the purple crystals. For one, Lei Xingfeng and Jean Daya had already sold a lot. If he sold it again, it would be hard for him to get a high price. Secondly, he didn't want to sell it at all. This kind of thing was too far away for Lei Xingfeng, and he was already preparing to become a monarch. Whether he succeeded or not, collecting and storing materials was something he had to do. Lei Xingfeng returned to his room and immediately took out the chaos wheel to study. With his knowledge, even 9th ring sages rarely had exclusive weapons, especially weapons that matched their attributes. It wasn't that they didn't want to use exclusive weapons, but that exclusive weapons were too hard to get. Even people from the hidden door had a hard time getting one. Chapter 167. Separating and combining the chaos wheel. The 3-layered structure made Xian Feng study it for half a day. In the end, he sighed deeply and kept the chaos wheel, as he hadn't reached the 6th true ring body. Yet, this thing required Yinli to activate, and the strength he possessed now was still Luan Yinli. He was only a step away from being able to use it, but this step made him unable to test it. Lei Xingfeng took out the Star Python record he got from the auction and started studying it. The Star Python record recorded an ancient method to condense Lei Yin. If Lei Xingfeng followed the normal method, as long as he converted Luan Yinli to Yinli, it would naturally condense into a seal. This Lei Yin was very ordinary. Old Man Thunderstorm condensed a similar Lei Yin. When his cultivation faded, this Lei Yin appeared and was given to Lei Xingfeng to build the foundation. After Old Man Thunderstorm recultivated, he condensed a new Lei Yin. It was still the ordinary Lei Yin. However, the Lei Yin recorded in the Star Python record was different. This should be the ancient Lei Yin method. It needed many steps and was very strict. However, once condensed into a Lei Yin, it would have endless uses. This Star Python record recorded the entire process of this method, the materials needed, and all kinds of strict requirements. Lei Xingfeng compared it to himself. He quickly found that he could use this method to condense a Lei Yin. However, he still lacked some materials. There were some that he hadn't even heard of before. He needed to ask his senior brother and master. After reading it a few times, Lei Xingfeng had basically memorized the record. After repeating it a few times, Lei Xingfeng imprinted the entire method in his mind. Only then did he stop. Closing his eyes and thinking for a long time, Lei Xingfeng was very emotional. Even if he obtained this strange method, he couldn't use it immediately. He still needed a lot of preparation. He began to search for materials in his hidden Luan space. After putting many materials in, he didn't bother with them anymore. It would take a lot of time to organize them. It was still raging outside. On the charcoal stove, there was a pot of bull beef. There were many dried vegetables and mushrooms. There was also a small piece of ice beast meat. This piece of ice beast meat was used for seasoning. It was said that any dish, as long as a small piece of ice beast meat was added, the taste would become very delicious. It could also increase the fragrance. Therefore, the room was filled with the rich smell of meat. For people like Lei Xingfeng who couldn't starve, sitting around the stove and cooking his favorite meat dishes in the cold weather was a great enjoyment. Closing his eyes and focusing all his attention on his hidden Luan space, Lei Xingfeng slowly organized. Suddenly, Lei Xingfeng was attracted by a bone. It was a bone he obtained from the ancient hidden Luan space. At first, he thought it was a good thing, but later on, he gradually forgot that this bone could be used. Lei Xingfeng found out that this was a usable material and one of the main materials. This made him very happy. As he organized, Lei Xingfeng found 7 more materials that could be used to condense Lei Yin. They were all collected or gathered by himself. For example, red gold was one of them. The other 3 were all obtained from the ancient hidden Luan space. No wonder there were so many cultivators fighting for the treasures in the ancient hidden Luan space. After careful calculation, he was still missing 8 materials. There were 3 that he didn't know about, and 5 that he should be able to find a way to get. After gathering all the materials together, Lei Xingfeng opened his eyes. Accumulating as much Luan Yinli as possible and purifying it as much as possible. Once it reached a certain level, quantity would become quality, and he would be able to advance to the 6th ring true body. This was a hurdle that many cultivators were stuck at. However, Lei Xingfeng didn't have this problem. His problem was that once he advanced, he would need to condense Lei Yin with his own characteristics. If it was a normal lightning attribute, like Yi, then he wouldn't need to prepare. But with this Star Python record, Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to mess around. This method of condensing a lightning stamp required an extremely strict process and a lot of preparation. However, once it was successfully condensed, it would be extremely powerful. In fact, cultivators of any attribute could condense stamps when they reached the 6th ring sage body. There were only a few types of stamps that were extremely useful in battle, such as the fire stamp, light stamp, dark stamp, and ice stamp. There were other types of stamps that focused on other attributes, such as the earth stamp and gold stamp, which focused on defense. As for the wood stamp, there was the green stamp, which focused on healing. After Lei Xingfeng finished organizing everything, he felt hungry. This place was extremely cold, and it was easy to feel hungry. His consumption was also extremely fast. He took out 2 large pieces of flatbread. He had prepared a lot of these. He tore them into pieces and soaked them in the thick soup in the copper pot, turning them into a large bowl of delicious food. It was convenient and could fill his stomach quickly. He ate with big mouthfuls and soon finished the large bowl. There were still many dishes in the copper pot. He added some meat, dried vegetables, mushrooms, and some water, and continued to cook. As soon as they finished eating, Feng Ying and Shihu rushed in. The 2 of them were shivering. Feng Ying complained, "Motherf asterisk her, this place isn't a place for humans to live. I'm going to freeze to death just from coming in from next door." Tiger Love shivered for a while before he recovered. He said, "Yeah, this place is too evil. It's cold to the bone. If we go out into the wilderness again, we probably won't be able to come back. We'll freeze to death outside. Fortunately, we don't have to go out for now." Mad Eagle said, "Chweezy and Mad Axe are here. They plan to help us build a circular corridor in the room to connect everyone's rooms. I heard that during the coldest time here, we can't go out at all. If we go out, we have to activate all the defenses. Otherwise, we'll freeze to death in a few breaths." Lei Xingfeng was secretly surprised. He said, "Only a few breaths?" He estimated that the temperature would probably reach absolute 0. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so powerful. Mad Eagle said, "Yes, that's what they said. Of course, it's only for a few days. As long as we don't go out, there won't be too much of a problem. With our cultivation, we can withstand it." Tiger Love was already sitting in front of the large copper pot. He smiled and said, "We came just in time. I'm hungry too. This place makes you hungry too quickly." Lei Xingfeng said, "I just added meat and dried vegetables. It'll be a while before we can eat." Tiger Love couldn't care less. A slender knife appeared in his hand. He stabbed it directly into the cooked meat, picked it up, and ate it in big mouthfuls. Mad Eagle couldn't help but take out a knife and stabbed a piece of meat. He ate it in big mouthfuls. Lei Xingfeng took out 2 pieces of flatbread and said, "Here." Mad Eagle said, "Put it on the charcoal fire and roast it." Lei Xingfeng put the flatbread on the charcoal fire. In just a few seconds, the flatbread emitted a charred smell. Mad Eagle turned the flatbread over and said with a smile, "Actually, I like to eat charred flatbread. Ha ha, especially when it's mixed with thick soup. It's delicious." Xian Jiaoluan and Jean Dia came in. The 2 of them were also trembling. They didn't feel better until they sat down. Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, "Why are you all here?" "Ha ha." Jean Dia said, "The food you cook is delicious. I've eaten it a few times. It's really delicious. So when it's time to eat, I can't help but want to come over." "Why? You can't bear to let me have a bite?" Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, "Of course not. Just come and eat. I can still afford to entertain you all." Xian Jiaoluan said, "In Hanya Castle, the most important thing is to eat. Also, we need a room to avoid the cold. It's going to be extremely cold soon. We need to prepare a little. Otherwise, we'll definitely freeze to death." Jean Dia said, "We still have 10 days to prepare. It's okay. Chweezy and Fudu will come later. They'll help us build a circular corridor. Even during the coldest days, everyone can visit each other. We don't need to seal the door." Lei Xingfeng didn't understand. He asked, "What do you mean by sealing the door?" Xian Jialuan explained. Sealing the door means that during the coldest days, we'll completely seal the entrance and exit of the room, leaving only a few ventilation holes. Lei Xingfeng said with a bitter smile, "So powerful." He started to take it seriously. If the door was to be sealed, one could imagine how cold it would be. Xian Jialuan said, "Of course it's powerful. There was once a ninth-ring sage who froze to death because he didn't seal the door. Even if he burned a charcoal basin, it was useless." Jean Dia said, "Actually, that person was careless. He didn't seal the door, nor did he cultivate. He wrapped himself in fur and slept. Who knew that the cold would come at night and extinguish the charcoal in an instant? He was completely frozen without realizing it. You should know that during the coldest days, no one would visit each other. A few days later, when the coldest days passed, he was discovered and could no longer be saved." Lei Xingfeng clicked his tongue. Holy shit, a ninth-ring sage, even an expert like that can freeze to death. That's 2F asterisk king scary. He knew that he was far from being a ninth-ring sage. If he was careless, even a ninth-ring sage could freeze to death. Then he would really be in danger. He had to be well prepared. Xian Jialuan said, "Afeng, don't be nervous. As long as we're prepared, the coldest days won't be a threat to us. Chweezy and Fudu have already helped me build a corridor outside the door to connect our rooms. When the time comes, we just have to seal the door." Jean Dia said as he ate, "You'd better cook another pot. They'll be here soon. These two guys can eat more than us." Lei Xingfeng agreed, with a smile. He was very easygoing and didn't have any conflicting emotions. To him, cooking wasn't a burden, but a way to adjust his life. He reignited a charcoal basin and placed a large copper pot on it. Cooking a pot of stew didn't require any skills. He just added water and ingredients. When the time came, it would naturally be ready to eat. It was simple and convenient. Xian Jialuan said with a smile, "Big Tooth, you talk to a phone." Lei Xingfeng said, "What is it?" Jean Dia said, "I've decided. I'll be your guard. Haha, I'm getting old. I still need to find a place to retire." Lei Xingfeng was overjoyed. A ninth-ring sage was an amazing existence even in the hidden sect. Even as a guard, they had a very high status, especially when their master was still growing. They had more power and status. Of course, they could also be of great help to their master. Whether it was collecting supplies or fighting, they were definitely the best assistants. "That's great. Uncle Jean will help me. Don't worry, I won't mistreat you." Jean Dia laughed bitterly. "It's too difficult to get some rings. I don't ask for anything else. I just want a stable way to get them." Lei Xingfeng said, "Don't worry. From now on, Uncle Jin's rings will be my business." Jean Dia stood up and bowed. "Greetings, Master." Lei Xingfeng also stood up and bowed. "Uncle Jean, I'll have to trouble you from now on." The two had officially established their relationship. Lei Xingfeng asked Jean Dia to sit down. "Uncle Jean, you don't have to call me Master from now on. Just call me a phone." Jean Dia laughed. "I know you're not particular. You have to call me Master for the first time. Ha! I'll call you a phone from now on." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "Uncle Ling and Uncle Tiger are now my chief guards. From now on, all three of you will be chief guards." He didn't give Jean Dia the title of chief guard. Jean Dia understood this, as did Mad Eagle and Tiger Love. After all, he had just joined Lei Xingfeng's team. It was impossible to give him the highest position right from the start. Mad Eagle laughed. "Brother Jean, what made you think it through?" Jean Dia smiled bitterly and said, "I'm tired. Moreover, I'm clumsy with words. I don't know how much I've suffered in the past. This auction has finally made me understand how much of a disadvantage my personality is. So after thinking about it, I think it's better to find a backer. Xin Zhaoluan laughed. Don't underestimate Big Teeth. He used to be an ancestor-level senior of a large sect. Jean Dia waved his hand. It's not worth mentioning. He left long ago and doesn't plan to go back. Xin Zhaoluan said, most of the ancestor-level cultivators of large sects will leave the sect and find their own way out. Jean Dia said, it can't be helped. In the sect, it's very difficult for people at our level to improve. Back then, I was a 7th ring sage. If I didn't leave the sect, I wouldn't have been able to advance to 9th ring. Now, I've advanced to 9th ring, but I have nowhere to go. I can only eat and wait for death. It's not a bad choice to have a secret sect. In fact, he had this idea long ago, but he couldn't find a suitable one. Therefore, when Xin Zhaoluan helped to recruit Lei Xingfeng, he thought about it for a while and agreed. This was an opportunity for Lei Xingfeng, but it was also an opportunity for him. Chapter 168. Being able to take Jean Dia as a guard was a pleasant surprise for Lei Xingfeng. This kind of master was hard to come by even within the hidden sect. In the beginning, only 2 of his guards were 8th ring sages. The others were much weaker, so he needed to slowly train them. Back then, the strongest of Miao Ling's guards was Hong Jia, who was also 8th ring sages. Later on, she relied on Miao Ling's Yin rings to reach 9th ring. Therefore, the guards of the hidden sect disciples, as long as they were 9th ring sages, they were all trained by themselves. With the help of the sect and a certain amount of Yin rings, they could become 9th ring sages. Chuizi and Kuang Fu also rushed into the room. The 2 of them were also shivering from the cold. When they saw the copper pot stewing on the brazier, their eyes lit up. Eat. Ha! There's good food. T. Chuizi stuttered, his teeth chattering nonstop. Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, Chuizi, you get this cold too? Kuang Fu said, nonsense, although we're not afraid of the cold, but we still shiver from the cold. Chuizi said, that's right, quick, give us a basin. Drink some soup first. It's too cold. Xin Feng took out 2 large basins and directly lifted the large copper pot, pouring the soup and vegetables into the 2 basins. As he spoke, eat some first. The 2 of them hugged the big basins. The boiling soup immediately calmed them down, and they buried their heads in it. After a while, Chuizi said, the frame is already set up. We just need to pour water on it. Kuang Fu said, there's already a lot of ice in the frame. As long as we pour water on it, it will freeze. Lei Xingfeng knew that it was easy to build a house here. Just set up a metal frame and add some ice. As long as you pour water on it, it will freeze immediately. All the cracks will be filled up and a wall will be formed. This was a unique method of building houses here. After Chuizi and Kuang Fu finished eating, Xin Zhaoluan said, all right, let's go water the plants. This requires a bit of skill. Everyone should have collected quite a bit of water in the hidden Luan space, right? Lei Xingfeng must have collected a lot of water. He always understood one thing. Although water seemed to be everywhere, once there was a lack of water, it would be fatal. Hence, in his hidden Luan space, he always kept a large amount of clean water. This was common knowledge for cultivators. Any cultivator, especially those who had reached the Taoist level, would store large amounts of water in their hidden Luan space. Lei Xingfeng said, yes, I have a lot of water. Xin Zhaoluan nodded. Let's go out and move the clear water from the hidden Luan space to finish the corridor outside. Lei Xingfeng started to wear a thick coat, wrapping himself up. He wasn't stupid. Seeing Chuizi and Kuang Fu shivering in the cold, he knew how cold it was outside. Xin Zhaoluan said, if you feel too cold, go back to your room to warm up. Don't force yourself. We'll take turns going out. There's no need to go together. I'll go first, then Big Teeth, Old Eagle, Tiger. You guys follow behind. A foam will be the last to come. At that time, it should be almost done. You just need to fix it." Everyone agreed, and Xian Zhaolin walked out of the room. About 20 minutes later, Xian Zhaolin came back, shivering. Jean Dia went out. He lasted much less time than Xian Zhaolin, coming back in 10 minutes. Then it was Mad Eagle and Tiger Love. When Tiger Love came back, he said, "It's basically done. Hee, and I've fixed most of the holes. A foam can go check it out." Xian Zhaolin said, "I've recovered. I'll go with a foam to check it out." Chuizi and Kuangfu also went out. Lei Xingfeng stepped out of the room and saw an ice wall in front of him. It was a 2-meter wide walkway, sealed with ice walls. It was built around the house, connecting all the rooms together. Because it was sealed, there wasn't much wind in the walkway. As long as there was no wind, it wouldn't be too cold. Lei Xingfeng only needed to find a place with wind and water to seal it completely. This was an easy job. After going back and forth a few times, the walkway was completely repaired. Through the ice wall, they could see the snowstorm outside. The snow on the ground couldn't be collected at all. Before it fell to the ground, it was swept up into the sky by the wind. There were no doors in the walkway, which meant that the building was sealed. Xian Zhaolin even went to Miao Ling's room to tell her that he knew. Lei Xingfeng also walked into Miao Ling's room. He only took one look and couldn't help but be happy. There were 4 braziers front, back, left, and right. Miao Ling was sitting in the middle, in the big pile of fur. Only her head was exposed. There was a big fur hat on her head. Even so, she was still shivering. When she saw Xian Zhaolin and Lei Xingfeng come in, she said, "Cold senior brother, it's so cold." Lei Xingfeng said, "8th senior sister, there's a walkway outside. It shouldn't be too cold." Miao Ling said, "It's still cold. I regret it so much. I shouldn't have come." Xian Zhaolin said, "It'll be fine after this period of time. Hanya Castle is the coldest during this period of time. It'll be much better after that." Lei Xingfeng said, "With this walkway, the room will be much warmer. Even if it's the coldest days, we'll probably be able to survive. If it's really not possible, we'll send 8th senior sister to the underground." Xian Zhaolin said, "The underground location has already been decided by someone. Before we came, there's no way we could get there." Miao Ling said, "Hong's sister will come later. She'll help me start another fire. 2 braziers." Xian Zhaolin said, "Don't block the ventilation. You're burning too much coal." Miao Ling said, "Hong's sister added 2 more ventilation pipes. It shouldn't be a problem." Xian Zhaolin said, "Wait for Hong's sister to come. During this period of time, let Hong's sister accompany you. Also, if there's any danger, immediately move to another room. After the walkway is built, you don't have to worry about coming to our room. Don't force yourself." He was the senior brother. He had the responsibility to bring his junior brother and sister back safely. Miao Ling said, "I know, senior brother. Don't worry, I'll always be with Hong's sister." Xian Zhaolin stood up and said, "That's good. Also, during the coldest days, we'll gather everyone together. Those are the most dangerous days, but it's also the best time to cultivate." After bringing Lei Xingfeng back, Xian Zhaolin said, "A foam during this period of time, although you can't go out and it's freezing, but this period of time can be said to be the golden period, because this is the best time to cultivate. This is also the reason why so many high-level cultivators don't want to leave. You have to use this time to cultivate and strive to reach 6th ring. And with your talent, it shouldn't be a problem." Lei Xingfeng came to the brazier and sat down. He sighed and said, "Senior brother, I've been cultivating for the past few days. I can feel it. It's indeed faster than usual, but I still can't advance. It's not that I can't advance, it's that I can't advance. Xian Zhaoluan asked curiously, "Why?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Do you still remember the star python record I got at the auction? It's an ancient cultivator's method to condense Lei Yin. It's very magical and requires a lot of materials. I haven't found a few of them yet. The most troublesome thing is that I don't know what the three materials are." Xian Zhaoluan said, "There's such a thing? So this Lei Yin's power is different?" He reacted quickly and immediately understood why Lei Xingfeng didn't want to advance immediately. Xian Feng nodded. "That's right. If I had leveled up normally, I would have been able to do it after the auction, but I forcefully suppressed it. If I were to level up now, it would be a huge loss for me." Xian Zhaoluan said, "What materials are you missing?" Lei Xingfeng wrote a list and handed it to Xian Zhaoluan and said, "Senior brother, take a look." He looked at Xian Zhaoluan expectantly. If he could help him, it would save him a lot of time and effort. Xian Zhaoluan took the list and checked it. There were a total of 8 materials. He smiled and said, "I have all of them. 2 of them are too precious. Even I don't have much stock. These 2 materials, how many do you want?" Lei Xingfeng glanced at the 2 materials that Xian Zhaoluan marked. He immediately breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Not much, no more than 2 pounds of each. This one only needs 1.5 pounds. Xian Zhaoluan said, "Is that so? Okay, I'll let you use it first. But you have to find a way to get it for me later." He knew that Lei Xingfeng was in a hurry to use it. He could spare some for the time being. After all, these materials could only be used after he advanced. Even if he kept them in his hands, they wouldn't be of much use. It was better to let Lei Xingfeng use them in an emergency. Lei Xingfeng was overjoyed. He said, "Thank you, senior brother." He owed him a big favor. Xian Zhaoluan carefully took out 8 materials and handed them to Lei Xingfeng according to his needs. Lei Xingfeng didn't expect Xian Zhaoluan to have so many kinds of materials. He asked curiously, "Senior brother, how many materials did you collect?" Xian Zhaoluan smiled and said, "I spent more than 30 years collecting materials. If not 1,000 kinds, I have at least 800 or 900 kinds. Feng, when we were enlightened masters, we didn't need too many materials. But once we advanced to monarch, the consumption of materials would be frightening. You've just entered the sect and don't have any missions. When you reach 7th or 8th ring, Master will give you a mission to collect materials. At that time, you can take this opportunity to accumulate materials." Lei Xingfeng said, "Master will give the order to collect materials?" Xian Zhaoluan smiled and said, Feng, Master doesn't have the obligation to keep giving without giving anything in return. He has accepted you as his disciple. When you grow to a certain extent, you will have to repay Master. This is beneficial to both sides." Lei Xingfeng said, "With Master's level, how can he not collect enough materials?" Chapter 169. Xian Zhaoluan shook his head. A person's energy is limited, and the distribution of materials is too vast. Some places are not suitable for monarchs, so disciples have to search for them. Once you reach the monarch realm, the competition is even more brutal. It's not something we true masters can imagine. Lei Xingfeng nodded. "All right, I hope I can help Master in the future. He was grateful to Gucci. If it wasn't for his master, he wouldn't have thought of the existence of the hidden door and the hidden space." Xian Zhaoluan said, "Actually, it's a good thing that Master ordered us to collect materials, because you don't know where to find good materials. only master, and the others can get the information. Hee, I used more than 30 years to go to many places. Master only needs to give you a certain amount of materials, and you can collect the rest. Lei Xingfeng said, Senior brother, does Master still give you the order to collect materials? Xian Zhaoluan said, There's no need. My mission has been completed long ago. Moreover, I'm now a 9th ring true master, and I'm starting to break through to the monarch realm. The materials I collect now are all for myself. For example, this time I collected Bia silk, but I didn't expect to get purple crystals too. Hee, even Master wants them. Lei Xingfeng said, and I understand. I'll fight for such opportunities in the future. Hee, actually, I like mining and collecting materials. Xian Zhaoluan said, Hee, I found that you have a talent for mining. Just like purple crystals, all of us added together can't be as good as you. I find it strange. We can even fly and directly go above the lava to collect purple crystals, but we still can't get as many as you. Lei Xingfeng secretly laughed. He didn't know why, but he seemed to be able to see signs that others couldn't. For example, purple crystals would emit a purple glow in the lava, but other than him, no one else could see it. I'm just lucky. Lei Xingfeng couldn't explain it. He had asked Mad Eagle and Tiger Love in private before, but they didn't see any light at all. He thought about it and decided not to say anything more. There was a special skill that would definitely give him a huge advantage in his future cultivation. After getting the materials, Lei Xingfeng didn't want to chat anymore. He said, Senior brother, I'm going to start cultivating and refining the materials. Xian Zhaoluan smiled and said, It's fine. You can cultivate and refine as much as you want. I'll stay here and guard you. Lei Xingfeng was very grateful. He said, Won't this affect senior brother's cultivation? Xian Zhaoluan said, I don't mind cultivating for a few days. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, All right, I'll leave this place to senior brother to guard. He sat in a corner and began to refine the materials. The materials needed to refine Lei Yin were mostly metal materials, with a small portion being bone materials and a type of liquid. No matter what the material was, it had to be carefully extracted. Lei Xingfeng only had one way to extract it. His only method was to extract it with lightning. Lei Xingfeng took out the red gold. Even if this thing was used up, he still had a chance to dig it out. The other materials were hard to come by, so he had to test it out. Using lightning to extract materials was a method used by lightning-type cultivators. Before becoming a monarch, it was also the only method. The red gold was placed on a wooden plate. Lei Xingfeng shot out a long electric arc from his hands and hit the red gold directly. In an instant, a crackling sound was heard, and wisps of green smoke rose. Lei Xingfeng patiently used the electric arc to refine the red gold. Xian Zhaoluan sat not far away. He was very surprised to see Lei Xingfeng's hands shooting out electric arcs. He also had his own methods of purifying materials, but this was the first time he had seen such a method. It was very novel, but he did not know how effective this method would be. The electric arc jumped. Xian Zhaoluan was surprised to find that the red gold was slowly melting and gradually condensing together. However, the wooden plate emitted a burnt smell. After a while, Lei Xingfeng suddenly stopped. He sighed and said, A wooden plate, it won't work. I don't even dare to increase the electric arc psi. The wooden plate is going to burn. Metal was conductive, so he could not use a metal plate. This made Lei Xingfeng feel a little helpless. Lei Xingfeng looked up and said, Senior brother, do you have any suggestions? I don't have a suitable plate. Xian Zhaoluan said, It's very simple. Find a large bone of a thunder beast and make a plate. Xian Feng slapped his own head. He was really muddle-headed. he had a few lightning beast bones, but he had always felt that they weren't of much use and had thrown them into a corner of his hidden Lewin space. He didn't think that they could be used here. He spoke, "I have some lightning beast bones, and they're not bad." After finding a large thunder beast bone, Lei Xingfeng felt a headache. How should he deal with it to get a plate? Xin Zhaoluan smiled and said, "Let me help you make a plate. I still have the ability to do this." Lei Xingfeng said happily, "Thank you, senior brother." He was very curious and wanted to know how senior brother made it. In the end, he saw Xin Zhaoluan take out a carving knife and carve out a long plate. This shape was the shape of a bone. Lei Xingfeng was stunned. He said, This works too?" Xin Zhaoluan said disapprovingly, "As long as it is a plate, it will be fine. As long as it can hold materials and withstand the burning of electric arcs, isn't it fine?" Lei Xingfeng was speechless. After a while, he said, "Okay, I admit, you are right." Placing the bone plate on the wooden plate, Lei Xingfeng put in the red gold and continued refining. This time, he could increase the output without restraint. The electric arcs emitted a glaring brilliance. In a few breaths, the red gold had completely melted, and the impurities were removed bit by bit. Xin Zhaoluan could not help but sigh in his heart. This purification method was much more powerful than his. It was actually using electric arcs to purify. This was the first time he had seen it. It should be known that cultivators with the thunder attribute were very rare. Among the senior brothers, Lei Xingfeng was the only one with the thunder attribute. Soon, the purification of the red gold was completed. Lei Xingfeng put in the second material and began to purify it. At this time, Mad Eagle and Tiger Love walked into the room. Xin Zhaoluan gestured for them to sit down and whispered, "A foam is purifying the material. Don't disturb him." Mad Eagle said in surprise, "Purifying with electric arcs?" Tiger Love said, "Isn't that so? He actually used electric arcs to purify it. I wonder how effective it is." Xin Zhaoluan had seen Lei Xingfeng purify the red gold before. He said, "The effect is quite good. I didn't take a close look at the finished product, but after the purification, I had this feeling that the red gold was purified very well." Lei Xingfeng began to grasp the power of thunder and lightning to purify the material bit by bit. He also began to change the method, and the electric arcs were sometimes big and sometimes small. He was adjusting and looking for the best purification method. Lei Xingfeng spent 2 days to completely purify the 10 materials. Of course, this hard work was worth it. First of all, he had completely mastered the method of using thunder and lightning to purify the materials. Second, after this purification, he had a deep impression of these materials, which would be of great benefit to the next step of refining. When Lei Xingfeng finished purifying, Xin Zhaoluan left and returned to his room to cultivate. As for Mad Eagle and Tiger Love, they stayed in Lei Xingfeng's room to help guard him. Lei Xingfeng took out the Star Python record again and carefully analyzed it. He had already memorized the entire process. The reason why he took it out was because he was still worried and needed to study it again to avoid missing anything. Lei Yin originally used the first condensed Yin force to create a crystallized core existence. Relying on the seal, all of the Lewin Yin force in the body was completely converted into Yin force. This was a process of advancement. According to the Star Python record, this seal was refined using materials and then absorbed into the body. After the Lewin Yin force was converted, this seal could become an extremely powerful weapon. Compared to a normal seal, the two were completely different. Every step could not be wrong, and he could not fail. If he failed, then Lei Xingfeng would only be able to condense a normal Lei Yin. The difference between the two was something he could not accept. Since he had obtained such a good refining method for Lei Yin, he had to succeed no matter what, according to the star python record. Once this type of lei-in was successfully refined and the master advanced, it would form 3 types of attacks. Its power was astonishing. This was what Lei Xingfeng was pursuing. He had not yet grasped the Chaos Wheel, but the Chaos Wheel was an external weapon after all, while Lei-in was an internal weapon that could grow along with him. The two could not be compared. The core material of Lei-in was the bone that Lei Xingfeng had obtained from the ancient hidden Luin space. After purification, it would form a silver-white bone about the size of an egg. All of the materials would be based on this bone. This was also why Lei Xingfeng was so confident. This bone was extremely precious, and even a monarch would be tempted. Lei Xingfeng still used lightning to refine it. On this bone, he needed to open 9 orifices, which were 9 holes, and then refine all of the materials. The distribution of the 9 orifices was strictly regulated. The distance and size were also strictly regulated. This was only the first step. There were 3 big orifices and 6 small orifices. The 3 big orifices were like a person's eyes and mouth, while the 6 small orifices were distributed on the surface of the ball. With the help of the lightning, the orifices were opened bit by bit. Xian Feng stared at the silver-white bone ball with incomparable concentration, concentrating on the refinement. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love were stunned. This was the first time they had seen such a thing being refined. They had heard of it before, but had never seen it with their own eyes. After about half a day, the crackling of the lightning finally stopped. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love only felt that their ears were suddenly clear. The whistling of the wind outside suddenly became clear. Lei Xingfeng picked up the bone ball and carefully inspected the 9 orifices. After a while, he said happily, "Success. Ha! There is no mistake at all. The first step is finally complete. Ha ha!" Mad Eagle and Tiger Love immediately came to Lei Xingfeng's side. The two were extremely curious. They wanted to see what Lei Xingfeng's Lei-in looked like. Lei Xingfeng held the round bone ball and carefully inspected it. Chapter 170. There were 3 finger-sized holes on the silver-white round bone, while the other 6 holes were much smaller. The 9 holes were arranged according to a certain pattern. Lei Xingfeng didn't understand it himself. He was only refining it according to the star python records. The 9 holes were connected, forming a very strange shape. The entire bone was round and delicate, and occasionally there would be arcs of electricity flashing. This bone was of the lightning attribute, so it could accept the power of lightning. This was only a half-finished product, or maybe not even a half-finished product. It was just a basic structure, but it was also the core. Once it was completed, the refining would be much easier. All kinds of materials would be added, and the design would be done meticulously. Lei Xingfeng didn't have to think too much. There was no difficulty. The most difficult part of refining this Lei-in was finding the materials, especially the materials to construct the 9 holes. Lei Xingfeng was lucky to have found this bone. Without this bone, it would be difficult to find suitable materials. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love looked at it with interest. After a while, Mad Eagle said, "Unfortunately, I didn't encounter such a good thing when I was at the 5th ring. Hee hee." Tiger Love said, "Even if you did, it would be difficult for you to succeed. Where would you find so many materials? Also, we've been using Luin rings and Luinin rings ever since we became sages. Now we're both using Yin rings. We can't compare to a Feng at all. Look at a Feng. He's already at the 5th ring with his own strength. He's about to reach the 6th ring. Sigh, comparisons are odious." Mad Eagle said, "Why are you complaining so much? If it weren't for the hidden door, we would have reached the 3rd or 4th ring at most. It would have been harder than ascending to the heavens. What are you complaining about?" The two were about to reach the 9th ring. With the Yin rings from Lei Xingfeng, especially the ancient Yin rings, their strength increased by leaps and bounds. This place was very suitable for cultivation, so the two were in a good mood and joked with each other. Mad Eagle handed the 9 holes to Lei Xingfeng. He said, "Feng, do you want to rest or continue?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I'll cultivate for a bit. I used a lot just now, so I'll recover and continue." Although he was very excited and wanted to continue, he knew that he had to be in his best condition, so he had to cultivate for a bit. After cultivating for a while, Lei Xingfeng said, "Eat something, then continue." He had no choice. In this damned place, he had to eat a lot, or his body wouldn't be able to take it. "Of course," Feng Ying said. "It hasn't even been half a day, and I'm already hungry." Jean Daya. The 3 of them burst into laughter. Jean Daya was confused. "I didn't say anything wrong. Why are you laughing?" Mad Eagle said, "We were talking about food when you came in." Jean Daya understood now. He said, "I still prefer Feng's dishes. Ha ha." Lei Xingfeng started cooking. After half a day, the 4 of them were full. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Uncle Jean, I'm going to refine something. Are you going to cultivate here, or go back?" Jean Daya smiled. "From today onwards, I'm your guard. Of course I'll stay here." Lei Xingfeng didn't refuse. He nodded. "All right, then stay here." Jean Daya took out his beast-skin cushion and sat down cross-legged. He sighed. Finally, someone's in charge again. Ever since he advanced to 6th ring, he was an ancestor-level expert. He was basically the one in command and had never been commanded by anyone else. Now that he was old, he actually joined a secret sect again. He felt a little disgraced in his old age. Mad Eagle smiled. "Don't worry, I'm much better than you." Jean Daya nodded. He closed his eyes and started cultivating. Lei Xingfeng started the next round of refining. After refining the red gold, its toughness was extremely strong and could be pulled out into thin threads. Thus, Xian Feng followed the records of the Star Python records and began to use a certain technique to pull out the red gold threads. The requirements for this thread were extremely high. The red gold threads that were pulled out were as thick as silk and had a continuous length of 900 meters. A total of 9 of these threads were needed. Lei Xingfeng relied entirely on Luan Yinli to refine the red gold thread bit by bit. He broke it countless times. On the 3rd day, he finally pulled out a qualified red gold thread. Fortunately, the red gold thread could be used repeatedly. Even if it broke, it could be reused. Lei Xingfeng worked for 7 days before he finished with the 9 red gold threads. Lei Xingfeng wrapped the 9 red gold threads around a steel rod that was as thin as a toothpick. He took out a bottle of liquid he got from Xian Zhaoluan. It was a liquid extracted from the body of a certain astral beast. It was an excellent insulator. He put the toothpick-like steel rod into the liquid and let the red gold threads soak in it for 10 minutes. Then he took it out to dry. Lei Xingfeng wiped his sweat. "This is torture." Mad Eagle smiled. "I'm shivering from the cold, and you're wiping your sweat." Lei Xingfeng said, "It's not because I'm hot. I'm just King nervous. Sai, this is much more difficult than refining 9 orifices." Lei Xingfeng was tormented by the continuous breaking of the red gold thread. There was even one time when the red gold thread was almost 800 meters long, but it suddenly broke. Lei Xingfeng was so angry that he almost went crazy. Without superhuman endurance, superhuman care, and superhuman rigor, it was impossible to pull out such a thin and long red gold thread. Fortunately, Lei Xingfeng went completely crazy in order to get his Lei Yin. He relied on his strong willpower and indomitable spirit to pull out 9 red gold threads. Each thread was more than 900 meters long, and 3 of them were even more than 1,000 meters long. Jean Dia opened his eyes. Done. Lei Xingfeng said, only one of the steps is done. There are many more steps after that. It's a torturous refining process. Jean Dia said, the more you put in, the more you gain. Continue. Lei Xingfeng said, how long more? The coldest days are coming. Mad Eagle said, some more days, but we can't go out now. Everyone outside is hiding in their rooms. Even if I go out, I won't last more than 10 minutes. I'll definitely freeze. Lei Xingfeng said, then let's wait. I can still continue for a few more days. And then, if they could get through the coldest days, they would have gathered as many people as possible, set up more fires, and eat more food. After a few days, there would be no danger here. Lei Xingfeng started refining Lei Yin again. The red gold thread had to be attached to the wall of the 9 orifices. This step was very difficult. It required Luan Yin energy and strong mental strength to attach the red gold thread to the wall of the 9 orifices. It wasn't as simple as attaching it, but it had to be wrapped in circles. It was so complicated that only cultivators could do it. The technique was recorded in the Star Python records. Lei Xingfeng experimented a few times and started to master it. Then, it took a long time to refine. Out of the 9 holes, 3 of them were large holes that required 6 layers of circles. Xian Feng busied himself for an entire day before he could finish pasting the first large hole. The second took half a day, and the third took 2 hours. As he got more familiar with it, his speed increased. Finally, before the coldest days arrived, Lei Xingfeng finished refining all the red gold thread into the 9 orifices. On the silver round joints, the 9 white orifices were emitting a faint red glow. It was very delicate. Occasionally, there would be arcs of electricity jumping around in the orifices. It gave people a strange feeling. Lei Xingfeng was exhausted. He kept the joints and wrapped himself in thick fur. He slept soundly. This time, he didn't even eat. Lei Xingfeng was woken up by the noise in the room. Coupled with the rumbling of his hungry stomach, he finally woke up. He saw that the room was full of people. He asked curiously, "Why are you all here?" Chue Tu said, "The coldest days are coming. After some discussion, we all came. Your room is the biggest and the ventilation is the best." There were a total of 9 large braziers in the room. However, the air was still cold. It was as if the 9 braziers didn't have any heat. The floor of the room was covered with thick animal skins. There were even many animal skins hanging on the ice wall. Xian Zhaoluan, Xiao Dia, Jean Dia, Mad Eagle, Tiger Love, Miaoling, and the 2 female guards, Chue Tu and Kuang Fu. Including Lei Xingfeng, there were a total of 11 people in the room. Other than Chue Tu and Kuang Fu, the 2 locals, the rest were all cultivators. Even with so many people in the room and so many charcoal fires, the temperature in the room was still not high enough. Lei Xingfeng hugged a pile of fur. He rubbed his eyes and said, "What should I do?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "You don't have to do anything. Other than eat, you just have to cultivate. You'll be fine after a few days. Actually, as long as you don't expose yourself to the outside world, the effects of cultivation will be the best. Try to cultivate as much as you can." Lei Xingfeng laughed bitterly. "I can't cultivate. I'm so close to advancing. I don't even dare to cultivate." "Oh, right. Uncle Ling, Uncle Tiger, you 2 are about to advance, right? How many yin rings do you need?" Mad Eagle said, 6 yin rings. If there's an ancient yin ring, then 1 would be enough. Tiger Love said, "I need more. At least 9 yin rings." 10 would be safer. If there's an ancient yin ring, then 2 would be enough. Jean Dia's ears perked up. He said in surprise, "Ancient yin rings?" Xian Zhaoluan sighed. Lucky guy? Lei Xingfeng nodded. Yeah, I have some ancient Yin rings. I got them from an ancient hidden Luan space. Jean Dia couldn't help but cry out. Really? Mad Eagle said. Why would a phone lie to you? Chapter 171. Lei Xingfeng nodded. Okay, hee, 3 ancient Yin rings is enough. You saved me the trouble. Saying so, he gave Mad Eagle an ancient Yin ring, and Tiger Love, too. Try to seize this opportunity. It's best if you can level up. If not, tell me. Hee, I still have more. Jean Dia knew about the ancient Yin ring. It was much stronger than the Yin rings of the current monarchs. The ancient Yin ring had been stored for hundreds and thousands of years. The Yin energy it contained was extremely pure. He had long since given up on advancing and relied on the Yin ring to prolong his life. The ancient Yin ring's effects were several times stronger than the Yin rings, and its effects were even more powerful, but very few people were willing to give it to others. Lei Xingfeng looked at Jean Dia's hesitant expression. How could he not know what he was thinking? He said, Uncle Jean, I'll give you one. You can try it. Jean Dia was overjoyed. This thing was definitely a treasure at a crucial time. He could still find Yin rings, but ancient Yin rings, he had never even seen one. He had only heard of them. He thanked him profusely. Lei Xingfeng didn't mind. Uncle Jean, we'll be family from now on. No need to be so polite. This was the first time Jean Dia felt different. He was touched. Xian Zhaoluan giggled. A phone, I'm too embarrassed to take it. Trade with me. How about 5 for 1? I'll use 5 Yin rings to trade for 1 ancient Yin ring. Lei Xingfeng took out 2 and said, Don't talk about trading. I'll give you 2. Miao Ling poked her head out from a pile of fur and said, Junior brother, I want one too. Lei Xingfeng was shocked. 8th senior sister, why are you here? He didn't see Miao Ling at all. She was afraid of the cold, so she hid in a pile of fur to keep herself warm. Hearing about ancient Yin rings and Hong Jie's constant pinching, of course she knew what was going on. She poked her head out to ask for more. Lei Xingfeng wasn't stingy either. He said, Okay, I'll give you 2 as well. I don't have any more. I didn't collect many back then. He didn't dare to just give it away. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he had subordinates who needed it. If his subordinates wanted to level up but didn't have enough Yin rings, that would be troublesome. Miao Ling was overjoyed. 2, good. She thought that it would be good if she could get 1. Sister Hong was also full of smiles. She was Miao Ling's bodyguard and managed a group of subordinates. With such a good item, it would be of great use during crucial moments. This was not a suitable time to refine Lei Yin, nor was it a suitable time for Lei Xingfeng to cultivate. Therefore, he set up the large copper pot and started cooking again. Above each charcoal brazier was a large copper basin used for cooking. Water and meat were placed on top of the brazier. Immediately, the entire room was shrouded in steam. Lei Xingfeng said, Cover the pots. If you keep cooking, we won't be able to see anyone. Xian Zhaoluan said, No, we have to put pipes in the vents. Otherwise, it'll be hard to make it through tomorrow. The so-called air vent was to leave a few curved holes in the ice wall to let the outside air flow in to prevent the lack of oxygen. If there was too much water vapor in the room, the air vent would easily freeze and block. Therefore, a metal pipe had to be inserted. When the time came, all they had to do was to change the metal pipe. Lei Xingfeng said, Open more vents. With so many people hiding in the same room and so many braziers, they would need a lot of oxygen. One mistake, and they would be in danger. If they didn't freeze to death, they would suffocate to death. It was better to be prepared as soon as possible. On the second day, the extreme cold weather finally arrived. Lei Xingfeng finally experienced the true extreme cold weather of Hanya Castle. Even if the house was made of ice, in the extreme cold weather, it would still make cracking sounds as if it was about to shatter. Lei Xingfeng trembled in fear. He didn't know where the white mist came from, but it could even freeze his skin like steel. Under the invasion of the white mist, a brazier made a crackling sound and was instantly extinguished. Jean Dia was so scared that he raised his hand to create a ball of flame. Then, he put in a few sticks of oil wood. Immediately, the flames rose and dispersed the white mist. Lei Xingfeng pointed to the corner of the wall and said, "Over there!" The white mist came from the corner of the wall. Chue, too, picked up a piece of animal skin and threw it over. When it came into contact with the white mist, the soft animal skin landed on the ground and actually made a hard-hitting sound. Hearing this, everyone's scalp went numb. It was already as cold as stone. If a person came into contact with it, they would instantly lose consciousness. All the braziers were set up with oil wood. The flames began to rise and finally dispersed the white mist. Lei Xingfeng said with lingering fear, "This thing, why is it so scary?" Jean Dia said, "Otherwise, this place would already be overcrowded. In this extreme cold weather, other than monarchs, even us ninth ring sages have to avoid it." Lei Xingfeng asked, curiously, "Have any ninth ring sages frozen to death?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "Yes, of course. Many have frozen to death." Mad Eagle said, "Those are people who are too confident and don't listen to advice. If they die, then so be it. Every year, there are a few idiots who think that they can block it with their cultivation. Ha! Even before they die, they still don't believe it." Lei Xingfeng said, "Do they freeze to death in their rooms?" Jean Dia said, "Of course." Without enough preparation, the walls of the rooms cracked. You saw how powerful this white mist is. There's nowhere to hide, so they can only die. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but click his tongue. Ninth ring sages freezing to death. It was unbelievable. Xian Zhaoluan said, "Some cracks can be blocked with animal skins. Others need water. This needs to be prepared beforehand." Suddenly, Tiger Love's body made popping sounds. Xian Zhaoluan said, "Not bad. Tiger has advanced." Then Miaoling and Xiao Dia advanced. Mad Eagle smiled bitterly and said, "Forget it, I'll cultivate." He was worried about Lei Xingfeng, so he didn't cultivate in time. Jean Dia said, "You cultivate, I'll guard." Sister Hong was still reminding Miaoling, "Don't slack off, continue to cultivate and consolidate. Don't worry, with me here, you won't be in danger." Miaoling replied, like a kitten. She was actually very cold, but her cultivation speed was something she had never seen before in her life. It was too fast. Her cultivation was like boiling water. In less than half a day, she had already advanced to the next level. Xian Feng didn't dare to train. He knew that as long as he trained, he would be able to level up immediately, but he hadn't even finished refining the lightning stamp. How could he be willing to level up? Thus, his attention was focused on the brazier and the crackling sounds coming from all directions. Even the ice could be frozen. The temperature was frighteningly low. Jean Dia and Xian Zhaoluan were holding animal skins in their hands, ready to block the cracks. Chuizi and Guangfu were also a little nervous. They knew the terror of the extreme cold more than anyone else. With the customs of the Aborigines, they would never stay above ground in extreme cold. Basically, they would all go underground to hide. But the two of them had already missed it. They couldn't reach their tribe's residence in time, so they could only follow Xian Zhaoluan. Other than the few who were still cultivating, Lei Xingfeng, Xian Zhaoluan, Jean Dia, Chuizi, Guangfu, and Sister Hong, a total of 6 people were alert. They couldn't sleep, so they had to keep the brazier burning. They couldn't let the brazier go out. Also, they had to notice the cracks in the ice wall and immediately fix the cracks. Also, Lei Xingfeng had to keep cooking to fill everyone's stomachs. This was also very important. Since they had nothing to do, they sat down and chatted. Hammerhead held a big bowl in his hand, which was filled with hot meat soup. As he drank it, his saliva flew everywhere as he said, "I've seen the coldest weather in my life." That time, several of our families were wiped out and all of them froze to death. Not a single one escaped. It was really tragic. Lei Xingfeng said, "That's impossible. You all live underground. How could so many people freeze to death in such a short time?" Chuizi said, "It's true. I'm not lying to you." Lei Xingfeng said, "But we live underground. How is that possible?" Chuizi drank a big mouthful of soup and stuck a big piece of meat into his mouth. After a while, he said, "What's impossible?" When the air freezes into liquid and rushes into the ground, anything is possible. Lei Xingfeng was stunned. He said, "Ah, liquefying the air. Holy sh*t," he thought to himself. Is this liquid nitrogen? Below absolute zero. Obviously, Xian Zhaoluan had heard of this before. He said, "I know about this." At that time, less than 20% of the people in Hanya Castle survived. The rest were all frozen to death. I heard that a monarch almost froze to death. This guy escaped quickly and forced open a secret door. However, he was heavily injured. Chuizi, this kind of situation is very rare. If you encounter it, it's just bad luck. It has nothing to do with your strength. No matter how prepared you are, you can only resign yourself to fate in this kind of weather. Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, "This is too scary. I hope this kind of weather doesn't happen often." Xian Zhaoluan said, "Happens often? Every time it happens, the vitality of this place will be greatly damaged. For at least a few decades, not many people came here. They were all scared to death." Lei Xingfeng said, "When did this happen?" Chuizi smiled and said, "It's nothing. It happened when I was young. It's been 70 or 80 years. In recent years, the extreme cold weather here has become much better. The danger has also decreased. This is also the reason why I dared to come out. Otherwise, before the extreme cold weather came, we would have gone into hiding a few months ago." Lei Xingfeng asked, "Senior brother, for your advancement this time, how many things do you need to prepare?" Xian Zhaoluan sighed and said, "A lot. So much that you won't believe it." Afong, you better start gathering all kinds of materials now. Don't be like me, only starting to prepare when the time comes. It's too tiring. It's exhausting and exhausting." Lei Xingfeng said, "What things do I need to prepare?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "You can ask Master for the Star Python record. However, everyone's preparation is different. Their attributes are different, so the materials they need are also different." Xian Feng nodded, "And there are some common materials." Before he could finish, he suddenly heard a loud kacha, si-la-la sound, causing everyone to turn pale with fright. Chapter 172. Lei Xingfeng stood up abruptly and said, "Where did that sound come from? Where did that sound come from?" His heart was beating wildly. He was scared out of his wits. Since Chue too had just told him about the horror of the extreme cold, it was impossible for him to not be afraid of such a terrifying cracking sound. Xian Zhaoluan also stood up. He immediately saw the ice wall behind Lei Xingfeng. He pointed and said, "There." Lei Xingfeng shouted, "Here." Immediately, everyone who was still cultivating woke up. They could no longer cultivate. Mad Eagle said, "What's wrong?" Tiger Love immediately jumped up and looked around. A crack in the ice extended from the bottom of the back wall to the top, constantly emitting cracking sounds. Everyone became nervous. If the ice wall at the back was frozen and shattered, the extremely cold air outside would rush in. In this room, there were not many people who could escape alive. Xian Jiaoluan said, "Get a thick animal skin and stick it." Mad Eagle took a piece of animal skin from the ground and flew directly to the top of the room. He stuck the animal skin on the top of the ice wall. Xian Jiaoluan picked up a basin of water and poured it down from the animal skin. Lei Xingfeng patted the animal skin and made it stick to the ice wall. The water froze as soon as it was taken out. They had to rely on Xian Jiaoluan to heat it up. Although the ice wall was still making cracking sounds, a thick layer of animal skin and a layer of water-condensed ice temporarily stopped the ice cracks from spreading. Lei Xingfeng said, "This won't do. We have to reinforce it. It's best to add another layer of ice wall. It's too scary." Xian Jiaoluan said decisively, "Okay, add another layer of ice wall. I still have some thin steel here. Everyone, let's work together and build a framework first." Everyone worked together. This was very fast. In just a moment, a thin steel framework appeared in front of the back wall. This was already the framework of the second wall. As long as they filled it with things and poured water, a new ice wall could be formed. Everyone took the things they didn't need from their hidden Luin space and stuffed them into the frame. After filling up a small frame, they used water to form a small ice wall. 10 minutes later, a new ice wall appeared. The group sat down again. Their faces were pale from the cold. Even with so many braziers in the room, the temperature in the room didn't rise. Of course, it was much hotter than the temperature outside. Lei Xingfeng said, "It's only the first day, and it's already like this. If it lasts 10 days, we won't be able to hold it, even if we have a room." Cue Zi said, "It won't last more than 10 days. At most 5 days, at least 3 days." Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's hope it ends in 3 days." The sound of ice shattering continued to ring out from the outer layer of the ice wall, causing everyone to feel extremely uneasy. However, with the second layer of the ice wall, everyone felt much better than before. Just as everyone was about to relax, they heard a crashing sound from the outer layer of the ice wall, causing everyone to look at each other. Chuezi said, "It cracked." In an instant, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Xian Jiaoluan said, "It's fine. There are 2 layers of ice wall. The reason why the outer layer can't hold is because of the strong wind. The ice wall can't withstand such a strong wind attack." A sharp whistling sound came in. The wind circled around the 2 layers of ice wall. The sound it made was really like the wailing of ghosts and howling of wolves. Lei Xingfeng said, "Who discovered this place? If it's their first time here, if they encounter this kind of weather, who can escape alive?" Xian Jiaoluan said, "That's not necessarily true. To be able to open the secret door, it must be a monarch-level expert or even stronger. Not many people discovered it, but escaping is not a problem. As long as we stay here and make contact with the locals, we will be able to understand the situation here." Lei Xingfeng kept putting wood into the charcoal brazier. The flames rose, and the red light shone on everyone's faces. Traces of warm air slightly dispelled the cold. Boom! Everyone was shocked. This sound came from the whistling sound. Lei Xingfeng said, "What's wrong?" Cue Zi said lightly, "I don't know whose igloo collapsed." Lei Xingfeng laughed bitterly and said, "There's nowhere to run. Scary." Boom! This time, everyone stood up because this sound came from outside. Xian Jiaoluan rushed to the door, lifted the curtain, and looked outside. Lei Xingfeng also ran to the door. This door did not have a door panel, but was made of 3 layers of extremely thick animal skin. It could block the general cold air, but it definitely could not block the extremely cold air. In front of them, rolling white fog came from the other end of the corridor. Xian Jiaoluan was scared and shouted, "Retreat!" At this moment, a figure rushed out from the white fog. His whole body was shining with red light. They heard him shout, "Wait for me!" Xian Jialuan and Lei Xingfeng stepped back. That person had already flashed to the door and shouted, "Get out of the way!" In an instant, an unparalleled pressure came. Xian Jialuan kept stepping back. Lei Xingfeng's legs went soft, and he sat down. Xian Jialuan said in horror, "Perfected cultivator." That person turned around and stretched out his hand to wipe the door. A black door panel blocked the door. He shouted, "What are you waiting for? If you don't want to die, block it immediately." The others immediately understood. One by one, they hurriedly stuffed the animal skin into the gap between the door panel and the door frame. Then, they quickly poured water on it. That person said, "Come, use another ice wall to seal it." Everyone knew that a single door wouldn't be able to block out the cold. Luckily, there were many people in the room, and Xian Jialuan had a lot of materials. The door frame didn't take up much space, and in a few minutes, another ice wall was erected at the door. Lei Xingfeng looked up and was speechless. He said, "Why are you here?" This person was the old man who made the deal with him at the auction. That old man probably did not expect to barge into Lei Xingfeng's place. He suddenly laughed and said, "Little guy, how's my chaos wheel?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I haven't advanced yet, right? I can't use it for the time being." "Oh, right. You old man, why did you come here?" That old man suddenly became angry and said, "I found a group of idiots. The place where I lived, it was all frozen and collapsed. I don't know how they built the igloo. Fortunately, I ran quickly. Otherwise, I would have died with those stupid birds." Xian Jialuan said, "Senior, you almost killed all of us." He was really angry in his heart. That old man was a little embarrassed and said, "It's okay. I'm here." Xian Jialuan did not dare to force him. That was a joke. A monarch could kill all of them with a flip of his hand. No matter how angry he was, he had to suppress it. Xian Feng took the opportunity to speak. "If that's the case, then you'll have to guarantee our safety." With a single sentence, he had pinned him down. Xian Jialuan was not stupid. He immediately understood Lei Xingfeng's meaning. At this time, it was useless to pursue anything. If he could make use of him, it would be worth it. The old man smiled bitterly and said, "Well, I owe you. Don't worry. As long as your room doesn't collapse on its own, then there's no problem. If there's a problem, then it's on me. I'll solve it." Xian Jialuan's expression suddenly eased. He said, "Thank you, Senior." Lei Xingfeng said, "May I know your name?" The old man said, "What? Do you want to seek revenge from your family's elders?" Lei Xingfeng was speechless. The old man laughed a few times, admiring Lei Xingfeng's bitter face. Then he said slowly, "Song Qiao, monarch." Everyone present, including Chuizi and Futu, stood up and said, "Greetings, Senior." Everyone knew this courtesy. What a joke. A monarch was not something they, as juniors, could show too much respect. Song Qiao smiled and said, "Well, I owe you one. If you have any trouble in the future, if you can find me, I can help you once." Xian Jialuan was pleasantly surprised. This promise was absolutely useful to him. Even if his master was a monarch, he had many things to do. There were some things he could not trouble him with. With this promise, at least he had another chance. A chance to ask a monarch for help was too precious. Lei Xingfeng was also happy. He understood how precious this promise was. He said, "Great, Senior Song. If we need help, how can we find you?" This was the key. No matter how many promises Song Qiao made, if you couldn't find him, then they were nothing. Suddenly, everyone's eyes were on Song Qiao. Song Chao laughed and said, "You sly little guy. Well, this is for you." It was a red crystal, 1-inch square. Lei Xingfeng didn't understand. "What is this?" Song Chao said, "Idiot, don't you know what a message plate is?" Lei Xingfeng was stunned. He knew what a message plate was, but he had never seen one before. It was a means of communication used by monarchs. Sages didn't have it. Song Chao said, "As long as we are in the same world, the message plate can find me." He briefly taught them how to use the message plate, then asked the owner of this place, Lei Xingfeng, and the others told him their names. He took out 3 more message plates, giving one to Xian Zhaoluan, one to Miaoling, and the last to Chuizi and Futu. Lei Xingfeng laughed. "Chuizi, you two won't leave this place. I think Senior Song will rarely come here in the future, right?" Song Chao said, "That's true. I came here for a few things. There's no point in staying here." Lei Xingfeng laughed. "Look, Senior Song will leave this time. If he doesn't come back, or if he doesn't, then even if you leave the message plate, it won't be of much use. How about you give it to me?" Miaoling curled up in Hong Jie's arms, revealing her small face. "Junior brother is so sly," she muttered. Chuizi and Futa discussed for a while. Then Chuizi said, "All right, a phone. What do you plan to exchange for it?" Lei Xingfeng laughed. "What do you want? As long as I have it, there's no problem." Chapter 173. Chui Zi said straightforwardly, "Food, and the dried vegetables and mushrooms, and salt." Lei Xingfeng knew they would choose food. He nodded. "No problem. How much do you want?" Food was worthless to Lei Xingfeng. Plus, he was used to storing food, so all kinds of food took up a lot of space in his hidden Luan space. Luckily, as a 5th ring sage, his hidden Luan space was really big. It was more than enough to store a few hundred tons of food. Chui Zi gave a number, and Lei Xingfeng happily agreed. It really wasn't a lot. Lei Xingfeng said, "Senior Song, I took Chui Zi's token, so I got another chance. Does this count?" Song Chao laughed. "Of course it does. I recognize the token, not the person." Ha ha. Lei Xingfeng was delighted. He really liked this point, recognizing the token, and not the person meant he could transfer the token. The benefits were more than just a little. Xian Zhaoluan rubbed his head. Junior brother's reaction is really fast. Ha ha. He didn't have the nerve to argue with Lei Xingfeng. After all, he was the senior brother, so he had to be humble. Lei Xingfeng happily put the 2 tokens into his hidden Luan space. "I'll give you food in 2 days. Even if I give it to you now, you won't have a place to store it." The natives didn't have hidden Luan spaces. They transported things like ordinary people. They either had to be carried or loaded in large carts. Chui Zi said, "Okay, we'll be able to go out in a few days. I'll find some people to move it." Song Chao sat in front of the brazier. "Is there anything to eat? I'm starving." Lei Xingfeng said, "I'm hungry too. Wait a moment, I'll cook." He was in such a good mood that he didn't mind cooking again. Song Yao noticed that Chuizi and Kuang Fu's eyes were red. She asked, "Is the food he cooks delicious?" Chuizi and Kuang Fu's heads were like their own weapons, nodding rapidly and crazily. Chuizi didn't even have time to speak before his saliva spilled out. Kuang Fu said, "It's really, really good, really good. It's the best I've ever eaten in my life, the best." His words were tired, but he kept saying it was really good, really good. Song Chari said thoughtfully, "It looks pretty good. Haha, perhaps the bitterness is over and the sweetness is coming." Xian Zhaoluan asked, "Did Senior Song not eat well before?" Song Yao could not help but scold, "Those arrogant little bastards who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Damn it, when they were building the igloo, they actually skimped on the materials. They only used a few thin pieces of steel to build the frame. Every one of them was lazy to death, and the way they ate was even worse. Alas, if I'd known earlier, I would have come here. I was almost killed by those bastards, but they played themselves to death. Ha! If I hadn't reacted fast enough. Damn it, I won't say any more. Lei Xingfeng and Xian Zhaoluan grinned. To be able to see a monarch in such a sorry state was indeed a joyous thing for them. Song Qiao's temper was not bad. He reached out and slapped Lei Xingfeng on the head. What are you laughing at? Those idiots. Alas, I don't know what to say. I don't understand how they could cultivate to such a high level. They're all 8th and 9th ring experts, but they're still so stupid. Lei Xingfeng shrunk his neck. They didn't look for the locals. They did, Song Qiao said. Then they drove them away. They thought the locals ate too much. So they left, Mad Eagle said. Another group of people who came in unprepared. Haha, that's normal. 8th and 9th ring experts can find food anywhere. But they didn't understand the peculiarities of this place, so it's not strange that they suffered. Song Qiao said, they didn't suffer, they died. Mad Eagle said, yes, they died. In fact, everyone was secretly cursing in their hearts. Originally, they were all fine and safe. This guy had directly smashed through the ice wall outside the corridor and forced his way in, almost harming everyone. Now, if this room had a problem, they wouldn't even have time to move to another room. Originally, there wasn't such a serious problem. However, no one dared to point a finger at a monarch. The difference in strength was too great, and no one wanted to court death. Due to the extreme cold, even the burning of the oil would seem weak. It needed to be stirred constantly, and the water vapor in the large copper pot would turn into countless ice shards and fall to the ground with a pitter-patter. Lei Xingfeng said, check the ventilation pipes. Don't block them. A few people quickly checked the ventilation pipes. 2 of them were already blocked. Fortunately, there were many fire cultivators around. One of them sent a ball of fire into the pipes, quickly breaking the ice and pushing it out. Lei Xingfeng slowly threw various ingredients into the pot, slowly boiling them. A strong fragrance wafted out. Song Qiao sniffed. It smells so good. Haha, I can't wait. Lei Xingfeng said, use a knife and fork to eat. Be quick, or else it'll freeze before it reaches your mouth. Everyone gathered around the brazier and used small knives to eat the meat. Their speed was as fast as lightning, and they quickly finished the entire pot of meat. Xian Feng then placed more meat into the pot. Now, only Lei Xingfeng's copper pot was left. Because they had to concentrate the fire, no one had the mood to cook. After one pot was finished, another pot was cooked. After a busy day, they kept eating. Only now did they realize a very important problem. There was no problem with eating and burning, but after eating and drinking so much, excretion became a big problem. When someone held his stomach and wanted to relieve himself, he found that the door was blocked. Originally, they only needed to waste one room, but now they were all blocked in the room. What should they do? Xian Zhaoluan helplessly said, everyone discuss what to do. Lei Xingfeng said, break through a room horizontally and block the door. But we can't do it. Only Senior Song has the ability. Only monarchs could survive outside for a short period of time. The others simply couldn't. They would become ice sculptures if they went out. Even if the room next door was invaded by the ice fog, it was still better than the corridor. As long as someone went in, blocked the door, and burned oil wood, the extreme cold could be dispersed. Song Yao might be a monarch, but even so, he had to face the same problem. He said, all right, I'll go in. However, you guys can come in and support me at any time. First set up the steel frame, and then freeze it. I'll keep it in my hidden Luan space. Once I reach the door, I'll release it. Hee hee, This should be easy to block the door. It should be easy to block it. Everyone discussed for a while. Xin Zhaoluan immediately began to make an ice wall the size of a door. When the time came, they just had to place it at the door and pour water around it to block the door. It was easy to create a hole in the wall. Everyone present could do it. The problem was that the wall next door was affected by the extreme cold. Other than Song Yao, everyone else would probably freeze if they went in. If they stayed for too long, they would become ice sculptures. There would be no accidents. The most dangerous thing was that once the hole was opened, the extreme cold outside would come in. Even if they didn't freeze to death, they would still be unbearably cold. But at this point, they couldn't suffocate to death. For better or for worse, they were still practitioners. If they were all men, it would be fine, but there were women in the room. Song Qiao said, "I'll break in. You guys block the entrance with animal skins. It shouldn't be a big problem. Let me know when you're ready." Xin Zhaoluan nodded. "Okay, wait for me." They quickly created a steel frame on the ground, forming an ice wall. Xin Zhaoluan said, "It's done. Senior, you take it." Song Yao only turned around to take a look, and the ice wall disappeared. He said, "Okay, right. Let's confirm that there's really another room outside. It can't be the wilderness. That would be fun." Xin Zhaoluan said, "It's definitely a room. I built it. There shouldn't be a problem." Song Qiao said, "That's good. Everyone get ready." Jean Daya and Xin Zhaoluan grabbed a thick animal skin and stood behind Song Qiao. Xin Zhaoluan said, "Ready, senior." Song Yao slammed his head into the ice wall, and with a loud bang, he created a hole in the wall. He rushed into the next room, with Jean Daya and Xin Zhaoluan following closely behind. They immediately covered the hole he made with a piece of animal skin. The extreme cold had already entered. A basin of charcoal fire nearby seemed to have been splashed with water and was instantly extinguished. Lei Xingfeng shouted, "Quick! Increase the fire!" Suddenly, the light of a fire came from next door. Song Qiao said, "Hold on, it'll be done soon." After entering the room next door, the first thing he did was erect the ice wall in front of the door and quickly seal the hole with water. Then, he piled up a pile of oil, wood in the middle of the room. A ball of flame shot out, and the pile of oil wood immediately ignited, quickly dispersing the extreme cold in the room. After a few minutes, Song Qiao shouted, "Okay, you can come over now." Jean Daya and Xin Zhaoluan tore off the beast's skin. That's right, they tore off the beast's skin. In this short period of time, the beast's skin that came into contact with the ice wall was already stuck to the surface. They had to use force to tear it apart to see the hole in the ice. With the light of a fire, Xin Feng entered the room next door and said, "What a big deal! So much oil wood." The pile of oil wood burned brightly, completely dispersing the cold. Song Qiao stood in the corner and peed. He said, "Don't talk about you guys, I'm suffocating too." Finally, the problem of excretion was solved. Everyone could finally relax. Xin Feng had never thought that it would be so uncomfortable to have so many people squeezed into a room. Due to the burning of the brazier, the air in the room was extremely dirty. Adding on the rising steam from the cooking of the food, it quickly condensed into ice droplets that fell to the ground and onto their bodies, causing them to feel greasy everywhere. As they couldn't wash their faces or baths, their bodies felt even more uncomfortable. Lei Xingfeng sighed. "No wonder no one likes to come here. It's too uncomfortable. The wind is cold." Everyone laughed. Miaoling couldn't help but blush. A bunch of bad guys. Chapter 174. It's not just but, Chweezy said, I almost lost my thing." "All right, let's not talk about that," Xin Zhaoluan said. "It's filthy enough. I hope there won't be any stench. He shook his head with a wry smile. That's not bad. You've never even seen a truly filthy place. Song Qiao said. A truly filthy place? Lei Xingfeng asked. Song Qiao nodded. That's right. Those who cultivate the dark element will go there. Of course, you don't have to go there. You're of the lightning element. Not bad. You'll be able to suppress those places. But if you go, I'm sure you'll be beaten to death. I didn't say I wanted to go. Lei Xingfeng muttered. But the lightning element is a very rare element. What's especially precious is that it can go to most places. Not bad, kid, Song Qiao said. In this world, 90% of the time there were 4 elements: fire, metal, earth, and ice. There were also other elements mixed together, such as dual, triple, and so on. As for the other elements, they were extremely rare. No wonder Song Qiao said it was good. There was only half a day left before the extreme cold weather would end. After enduring for 3 consecutive days, the pressure on everyone was so great that they felt exhausted. In fact, in these 3 days, other than taking turns to sleep, they spent most of their time cooking, eating, and chatting. However, it was such a relaxing task that made them all feel tired. They just hoped that the extreme cold weather would pass quickly. Lei Xingfeng was hugging a ball of fur. Like Miaoling, he only poked his head out. How long will it take to warm up after the cold? Chuizi was also wrapped in a thick fur coat, but he was clearly better off than the others. As expected of a native of this place, he said, after the cold, it'll warm up immediately. That's when Hanya Castle is at its most chaotic. Lei Xingfeng said in surprise, is there a large group of people coming? Song Yao said, you can't enter. No secret door can be opened here. This world only experiences extreme cold once a year. The first 2 months are the best time to open the secret door. Once the extreme cold arrives, no one can leave and no one can enter. Only by enduring the extreme cold can you gain something in this world. At that time, you can search for all kinds of resources and even hunt ice beasts. Lei Xingfeng said, so the secret door isn't omnipotent. Nonsense, Song Qiao laughed. You can't enter any world at will. You need to choose the right time to open the door. If you force it open, you'll destroy it. You need to know that opening a door requires an enormous amount of resources. Not even monarchs have access to one. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but smile bitterly. He originally thought that as long as one became a monarch, one could open a door at will. It turned out that a door had to be made, not obtained from thin air. He said, how can a monarch not have a secret door? A monarch is so powerful, shouldn't it be easy for him to gather all kinds of resources? Song Qiao shook his head. That's impossible. The materials needed to make a secret door can't only be found in one world. Think about it. If a monarch doesn't have a secret door, how can he go to another world? There's no way he can gather so many resources. Lei Xingfeng shook his head in disbelief. Xian Zhaoluan said, I believe that. Monarchs with secret doors all have hidden spaces that can be passed down from generation to generation. If you rely on your own strength to become a monarch, then it's possible that you don't have a secret door. Lei Xingfeng said, Senior Song, do you have a secret door? Song Qiao said, Nonsense. Of course I have one. Why else would I be here? Lei Xingfeng said, Oh, Senior is here to gather materials. Why don't you let me do it? Song Qiao said, I don't have time for that. I like freedom, and I don't like to settle down. Ever since I got my hands on a secret door, I like to run around. I bet you haven't experienced it before. It's really fun. Lei Xingfeng's eyes showed a trace of envy. He also wanted this kind of life, free and unfettered. Of course, it was just a yearning. He knew he couldn't live like that. He still had a lot of things he couldn't let go of. He said, "It's a good choice." Song Qiao was pleasantly surprised. His method was despised by countless people, and almost no one agreed with him. It was rare for someone to agree with him. He immediately became happy. "Yes," he said. "In fact, this kind of free and unfettered life not only saves time and effort, but also makes me happy. There aren't so many messy things to worry about. If I want to go, I can go. If I want to stay, if I want to stay. If I want to kill, if I want to burn, if I want to burn." The crowd couldn't help but laugh. Lei Xingfeng said, "Yes, yes, you can do whatever you want." Xian Zhaoluan whispered, "But, Senior, what about your inheritance?" Song Qiao said, "Inheritance? What does it have to do with me? If I die, I won't have any inheritance. Think about it. Even if I pass it on to a disciple, I won't know anything after I die. So, I won't pass it on, and I won't take any disciples. When I die, I'll close my eyes and I'll still be free and unfettered." Everyone listened, stunned. This guy was definitely a weirdo. Song Qiao laughed. "That's a great choice. Don't look down on me, because I don't have any disciples. I have countless friends. If I entrust something to a friend and pay a certain amount, I can achieve my goal without too much responsibility. In this life, I can live very comfortably." Lei Xingfeng was completely relieved. No wonder this guy shared a house with others. In the extreme cold, the house collapsed. If he had disciples, this kind of thing would never have happened. This guy was a lonely soul. But in his heart, he understood that there were both advantages and disadvantages to associating with people like this. "Senior Song, did you refine this chaos wheel?" Song Qiao laughed. "Hee hee, do you think I refined it?" Lei Xingfeng said, "You didn't refine it?" Song Qiao said, "You could say I refined it. I came across it by chance. Well, to tell you the truth, I stole it. A few kids found an ancient hidden Luan space and looted it clean. I was a step too late, so I caught them. Hee hee, they were very obedient and gave me most of their stuff. This chaos wheel was from that time, but I modified it later." Xian Feng was about to break out in cold sweat. He had thought that this fellow was a good person, but now it seemed that he wasn't. Actually, this was something that he was always confused about, because the moral standards of his previous world would often clash with the standards of this world. This kind of behavior was too normal in this world, and with Song Yao's actions, he could be considered a good person. Lei Xingfeng said, "You killed them?" Song Qiao waved his hand. "They gave me so many things. Why would I kill them? I let them go. Hee hee, they weren't a threat to me." Xian Zhaoluan said, "If they were from a hidden sect, I don't think you'd let them go." Song Qiao said bluntly, "Of course, let them go. Would I let their elders come find me? Although I wasn't afraid, it would be troublesome. In order to avoid trouble, killing them was the best choice." He spoke his mind without hesitation. Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly. This was a monarch. A powerful monarch was truly unscrupulous. In fact, he was truly envious. This was the life he wanted. "Is the chaos wheel suitable for me?" Song Qiao smiled. "It's very suitable. This is a weapon with the lightning attribute. When I first made it, I wanted to make it suitable for me. In the end, I found that it was more suitable for the lightning attribute. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't have brought it out. You should know how difficult it is for a cultivator to have a suitable weapon. Even now, I don't have a suitable one." Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly. "Your modifications didn't damage the Chaos Wheel's characteristics, did they?" Song Qiao shook his head. "This is a weapon passed down from ancient times. I don't even know how to use it. My modifications didn't change anything, only add a few functions. If you fuse with it, you'll have some fire attribute offensive abilities." Lei Xingfeng said, "All right, we'll talk about it when I get to 6 rings." Song Qiao said, "If it weren't for the fact that I needed the purple crystals, I wouldn't be willing to trade with you. Speaking of which, you got a great deal." Lei Xingfeng was dumbfounded. "You're a senior. Can you be any more shameless?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "It's a normal trade. No one is taking advantage of anyone." He helped Lei Xingfeng. Song Qiao laughed. "That's right. It's a fair trade. It doesn't matter who is taking advantage. As long as it suits you, it's the best." Chuizi said, "Everyone, pay attention. The cold weather is about to end." Xian Zhaoluan, Jean Daya, Wild Axe, and Mad Eagle all stood up. Song Qiao's expression became serious. Lei Xingfeng didn't understand. "If it's going to end, then it's going to end. Why are you so nervous?" Song Qiao explained. "Little guy, before the cold weather ends, the temperature will reach its lowest point. As long as we get through this period, there won't be any problems. But at this time, the igloo has reached its limit. We need to be prepared. If the room cracks, we need to plug the leak." Lei Xingfeng couldn't sit still. In fact, his strength was too low. He couldn't help at all. Xian Zhaoluan had a few 8th and 9th ring experts prepare together. They all took out beast skins. This was the best material for plugging leaks. Together with water, they could block any cracks. They stood in 4 corners, waiting for the cold weather to pass. In just a short moment, the howling of the wind became even sharper. Whoosh, whoosh, there was a slight cracking sound. After a while, the sound gradually became clearer. Crack, crack. Gotcha sounds came from all directions, causing one's soul to tremble. Xian Feng shook his head uneasily as he looked around. The sounds of gotcha followed, causing one's heart to become flustered. You're tuning into the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.